Welcome to the Freak Easy. What's up, guys?
You should have done a Michael Myers open.
I don't know how to do that.
You just stare at the camera.
Yeah,
and then
you breathe heavy.
And then Danny hums the theme song.
That's terrible.
Is that pretty good?
That's not very good.
That's not good?
It's not very good.
I can't hum that. That's a hard one to hum.
Yeah.
It needs the plink of the piano.
Can we fix that in post?
Nope.
Yes, I'll fix it in post.
We can't afford that.
I'll fix it in post.
Okay.
Oh, guys. Welcome back to the Freak Easy, the spin-off podcast from the Geek Easy, a celebration of the Halloween season where we are talking about horror movies. This is the final episode.
And it's Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Trick or treat.
What are you going as, Internet?
Sexy Internet?
Yeah, that sounds right.
The Internet is going as the sexy Internet.
That reminds me of a story that I'll tell later.
Trick or treat, Internet. Please comment all the candy below.
Oh, I like that. That's a good idea. Trick or treat.
If you guys like our show, send us candy. That's how we'll know.
Is there?
That seems dangerous.
I don't know how podcast ratings work.
We have to check it for razor blades.
Is there a Patreon setting where they can just Patreon us candy? Yeah,
there should be.
Yeah,
we should start candy Patreon.
Yeah.
Candy Patreon. Guys.
Can you PayPal those fruit-flavored Tootsie Rolls?
That only show up at Halloween time? Those are delicious.
They're amazing.
Okay, what do you guys... Here's the real litmus test.
Yeah.
How you feel about Smarties?
Oh, I like Smarties.
Smarties are
No,
all right.
You're out.
They're certainly not
you're
my
disqualified.
go-to. They're not... I would not, like... In a bag full of Halloween candy, they would be one of the last things.
I was going to say, that was always the last thing.
But they wouldn't get thrown in the trash like candy corn or those weird orange and black wrapped caramel-y things that only come out at Halloween time.
I liked those. Anything caramel candy corn was terrible, but even worse was the candy pumpkins.
Yeah, those are bad too.
Who was like, oh, the candy corn is terrible. Let's make a bigger one.
Let's make it bigger, shaped like a pumpkin. That'll work. No, those
Gross.
are awful. So.
I would step up Smarties above that. What you said, like we're tiering this. You hate them, you'll accept them. I will never go out and buy a Smartie, but when I see them in a Halloween bag, I'm like, hey, Smarties, cool.
Also, we should, I guess, point out that we're talking about like the U.S. Smarties, because did you know Smarties are different outside of the U.S.? Like,
what do they call them? La Smarties?
Specifically in Canada, La Smarties. Yeah, yes, that's. In Canada, they're like a candy-coated chocolate candy, almost like akin to M&M's.
Like a chocolate Skittle?
No, not like a chocolate Skittle. Those were terrible.
I wish the rest of the internet had seen your face the first time you ate
chocolate Skittles. Those were a real thing, in case you didn't know, and they were. Yep. You know, like they got those.
They were not a real
now.
thing for long.
You know, they got those candies now where they're like, oh, one of these might taste like fruit, and one of them might taste like vomit. Haha, beware! The entire bag of chocolate Skittles just straight tasted like vomit. Like it was just like a giant prank from the company. Like, we're going to make Skittles that taste like all these different flavors of chocolate.
It's terrible.
We'll get them. It was bad.
Gross. Oh. Fitting that this is our Halloween extravaganza.
Ooh, I like that.
That wasn't very Michael Myers-y.
Today, we are talking
didn't
about...
roll a single R in any one of those movies.
Why?
Oh, I'm sorry,
He should.
Am I distracting? My apologies.
Was I supposed to be doing a Michael Myers impression the whole time?
Well, you did that awesome Dracula in the last episode.
Just for the intro.
No.
You're the one...
Also the outro.
Well, it wasn't that awesome for the outro. But you're also the one who said you wouldn't have been able to handle it if I had done the whole show that way.
Good call. Don't do a Michael Myers. I want to finish this.
Oh, guys, this week we watched the entire Halloween franchise, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get out the way, except for the Rob Zombie episodes.
I was about to add that addendum, except for
me and John have seen the first one and did not like it.
Oh, that's not the right way to say that.
Well, I don't want to get, since we didn't watch them and aren't gonna like discuss them. I don't want to get into the full like how much we hate that movie.
Okay, that's fair.
So like and we've talked. We understand what he was trying to do. Is a different way to take the franchise and to look at Michael Myers, and it's fine that exists. And I know that it has its fans. Not for us. I didn't even see the second one, and I'm the horror movie guy.
Yeah. Don't hate Rob Zombie.
Yeah,
I'm willing to state that I appreciate the effort, and that's the nicest thing I'll ever say about that movie.
So we will not be discussing or covering those, just because there's no point to. And they've been picked apart and defended and everything. Go if you want to see more about that. Go Google that. We're going to talk about the rest of the franchise.
There. Yeah, the internet's there.
We're going to talk about all the real Halloween movies.
All the real Halloween movies.
And 3. Well, here we go. Starting that off right away.
Man, 3 is just a bad number for horror movie franchises.
Unless we're talking about Puppet Master, in which case 2 is the bad one.
Halloween 3 is the Highlander 2 of Halloween movies.
Man. All right, so, guys, was this your first time watching Halloweens?
Nah, this was my first time for the whole franchise.
For the whole franchise?
I'd seen several of them, but not in, like, basically none of the middle ones.
Okay. So
I had only ever seen H2O and Resurrection.
Okay.
I had never seen any of the originals or any of these other ones. So this was my first time finally sitting down and watching all the way through.
I had seen H2O was my first one, which I saw when it came out, and then I saw Resurrection in theaters also.
Yeah, I saw both of those.
And I went back and rewatched, because I'm a John Carpenter fan anyway, so it was pretty ridiculous that I hadn't seen one before. Mm-hmm. And I had gone back and watched 1 at some point. And I would have told you a week ago I had also gone back and watched 2 at some point. And then we watched 2, and I didn't recognize any of it. So now I'm guessing maybe I hadn't seen that before.
I can't remember, honestly, the first time I saw any. I don't remember exactly the first time I saw any specific Halloween. It was, again, they were not ones that were big, like in the rotation, the Slumber Party rotation,
right?
Or anything like that.
Were the Slumber Party movies big in that rotation?
They weren't.
Okay,
they weren't.
I never seen
surprisingly enough. Although Sleepaway Camp was.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But I saw Michael Myers. The first Halloween has been my favorite horror movie for a very long time.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember specifically the first time I saw it. I remember it was, late in high school when I was first starting to kind of appreciate movies, where I was like, "Yep, this is it. this is the one."
Is there a personal reason that it's your favorite, or is it just because it's inarguably the best?
What I like about it, the personal reason is
I like that you're answering that question with a serious answer.
Well, I have a serious answer.
That's what I like.
Okay. The personal reason is that it feels so Halloween. It feels so like cold fall evening, and it's kind of, even though it's not, it's kind of got like that same kind of feeling, atmosphere that you get from watching like the old Universal classics, like Dracula and Halloween go in like the same stratosphere. I don't know,
I don't know if I ever would have put a connection like that together, but as you're saying it, I can totally start building that concept.
Yeah. Well, and the movies take place in Illinois.
Yeah.
And that's where we live. So, like, one of the things that I even kind of thought was cool was watching the neighborhood and the way everything looked around Halloween time felt like we were looking at, like, neighborhoods around here. Mm-hmm. Like, it felt very personal in that kind of context. Like, this is what Halloween looked like to me when I was growing up and everything. So it does feel a little bit more real when you're watching those movies.
That's what Halloween looked like outside of your window as we were watching them.
Exactly. We were, because it was like a perfect, like, dreary fall day when we were sitting here watching it that day.
It was raining leaves.
Raining leaves outside because the wind was blowing so hard, and it was like it's like that time of year where the leaves are like perfectly yellow and orange.
Yeah.
So it was awesome because, like, look right on my front porch. It looks like Michael Myers should be walking up the street right now.
I don't want to give away too much of your location to the internet or anything, but you have 1 billion trees around your house.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of trees, yeah.
Oh, now they're going to find you.
Oh, no! The trees gave it away!
What house has 1 billion trees? That's it. That must be Pixel Dan's.
Yeah, they may accidentally find me, so don't worry.
Love these. All right, so I don't know. How do you guys want to talk about these? Do we just go movie by movie?
Yeah, start at the beginning.
Yeah,
and go.
Yeah, we'll just kind of and I assume we won't talk about some as long as others. We might as well just go through the order.
Yeah. Got it.
This introduced a lot of like mainstream stars.
Yeah,
the franchise did.
Yeah,
as a whole, starting with number one.
Yeah, So number one, number one, Halloween. Do you remember the date? 78? 78 is like the Godfather of the slasher movies.
Yeah.
It, created the tropes. There have been horror movies before that, and scary movies, slasher movies. There had been, Psycho, was before that. But man, nothing like Michael Myers, and nothing like Halloween. And every slasher movie that followed was emulating Halloween one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Even the ones that, because I think you could probably say that, Freddy and Jason went on to be more mainstream and kind of be bigger and more well known than Michael Myers.
I would definitely say that.
Yeah, and they were both following in his footsteps,
right?
Yep.
Step by step,
Right.
Plus, there had been others, and there had been like some tropes introduced and everything like that. But this movie came along and really just perfected everything.
Yeah,
it was so tight and well done, and everything about this movie plays as perfect.
Yeah.
In my opinion. For what it is, I would almost call The Godfather the Halloween of gangster flicks. I like me some Godfather, but man, Halloween is good.
Yeah, and I honestly I heard what I was saying as I was saying it. I was meaning more as in it was the Godfather of horror movies more so than it was.
Okay.
Comparable to the movie, you know what I mean?
Like
an actual Godfather figure,
right? Yeah, like the one looking over all the rest.
Yeah.
More so than
Friday
the movie.
Friday the 13th is kissing Halloween's ring.
Right.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
Freddie needs a favor.
I really enjoyed the intro to this. I thought it was an awesome way to set the whole thing up, and I like that. One thing that's really different, too, about Michael Myers is right here at the start. We get kind of a full-on introduction to the character and how he came to be right off the bat with this movie, where we see little kid Michael Myers get his first kill, where he murders his sister right there in the beginning of the movie, and they take him away. And that's just something it's a little more personal with this character, I feel than the others. And the other thing is even though he's kind of an unstoppable monster, he's still very much human, and they treat him like a regular human through the entire franchise, which I was wondering if we were going to get to a point where they just went full on zombie mode with him like they did with Jason.
Right.
But Michael Myers was never supernatural. He was not really. They got a little weird in some areas, which we'll get to. But for the most part, they always kind of portrayed him as just a human who was driven by his passion to kill his sister.
Passion to kill.
Passion to kill. It was just what was driving him, and they referred to him as pure evil a lot.
Yeah.
He's pure evil, and that's why. That was how they explained away how he was able to take a bullet and live or whatever. But
and they added, like you said, they added some elements from time to time. But none of it really ever seemed to stick.
Didn't really stick.
And it never became the focal point of the character.
Yeah.
In when we get to some of the later ones, which as you said we'll get to them.
Yeah.
And they kind of steer into building this mythology around it. But even through that, as you're watching the movies, going, these are dumb story beats. that's never the focus of a Michael Myers scene. You know what I mean? Like anytime they're going through the actual like scenes, it's just what it is the whole time. So like even when they try to kind of make it dumb, the character itself is so strong it just plows right through all that.
Right.
Well, he almost becomes, you know, a force of nature more so than like a person or a character. I think it's interesting, you know, so often he almost works in reverse, which is, you know, it's weird to say because we just talked about how he's, you know, the godfather of slashers, right? But he almost goes in reverse, you know, like a lot of them. Friday the 13th, we don't know anything about who's killing, who's, you know, who it is. This the very mysterious killer, and then in the end we find out, oh, it's this old lady who's crazy because her child. You know, with Michael Myers, it's kind of like we get his backstory in the beginning, and he becomes more mysterious as he's murdering, and then as he's unstoppable, and then why is he unstoppable? And you know, like it almost goes in reverse to what you would expect or what you would think.
And even when they try to give a more in-depth explanation to some of it in some of the like later middle ones, which is it's a weird franchise to talk about because the franchise itself is like three different. It's like three different timelines within itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as you go through the first like 6 of them. There's a point towards the end where they start to try to add in these like mystical type explanations or cult type explanations, but like I said, even when they start to add those, like your brain never connects with them enough to let them matter. You know, you're just watching Michael Myers. And you know they can sit there and go, well, we cursed him, and you go, I don't care.
That's
it's just you know.
Well, the thing that becomes so interesting and the thing that becomes so exciting, I think, as this franchise goes on, is kind of the family connection or the connection between Michael and Laurie specifically. And we got away from that for a while, but there's still some fun stuff in the middle without her. But and I know we're just jumping all over the place, but you know, like in the first movie, we don't even know that she's his sister, right? Or is that revealed at the end, or not until 2?
Not until
2. Yeah. So we don't actually know the reason why he's like specifically coming after her or whatever. And I don't even know if they really meant it to be that way in that movie, but it very much feels like it's.
I don't think it is, and I don't think it's meant that way in that one,
right?
Because. Well, you can tell she just happens to be the final girl, you know, the one he chases the most, because he murders the other 2 girls first, and that dude, you know, and
it feels like there's a vendetta there, but that was having seen it through the eyes of someone who knew there was more to it,
right?
You know, so I got a feeling if you're sitting there watching it in 1978, then no, none of that is even an idea. It's just that you know. You know, everyone else he's come across, he's just murdered ruthlessly.
Right.
And this girl actually made it to the next room, so that's not going to stand. So he's got to get her, you know.
That's something I was surprised by while watching this, because I already knew going into this that they were siblings.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that wasn't like a big revelation in the first movie, and that they didn't even mention it until the second one. And I don't even remember how soon they brought it up. It feels like they brought it up pretty early in the second one, right?
It's late, actually.
Was it late?
We don't find out until, because the nurse tells Loomis, after the nurse comes and picks Loomis up when they're on the way out.
Yeah.
She tells him. Yeah. And he's like, turn around, and hijacks him, and they go back, and that's, you know, I mean, there's not more than 15 minutes left of the movie at that point.
Okay, all right. And the whole thing was like she's like the younger sister, and after the murders, she was adopted.
No, they changed their name.
They changed the last name.
They changed the last name.
There's a point where they reference her as being adopted, but I got a little shaky on that through the several movies.
Yeah, one of the movies they said something about her being adopted or something, but I don't remember which one that was.
Well, what's the girl? The girl in her daughter was adopted in 4.
We knew that.
I don't remember them talking about. Laurie being
remember
adopted.
Exactly, but yeah, they explain why her last name's Strode and not Meyers.
Yeah,
but that becomes a focal point that Michael knows that's his little sister, and for whatever reason, he wants to finish the job of killing off his family. So that's like what he just wants to do. He's
really just they never really go after the parents, or really.
Yeah,
like,
we
the
don't
parents
even really,
come up.
Yeah,
in 2 at least, they're mentioned. but there's never like a focal point of him trying to hunt them down at all, which I always took as some sort of sibling, like attention seeking, for lack of a better.
He doesn't like being the middle child. He's got serious middle child syndrome. Yeah, this is.
Well, when he killed the older one, he was just the younger one.
Yeah.
When he killed the older one, he was just the younger one. And then he finds out there's another one. He's like, well, I gotta kill her too.
I think we should probably keep an eye on Connor. I think that's what we're getting out of this.
Maybe.
That's one of the reasons I won't let him watch these. On the one hand, he's 5. They're a little above his pay grade. On another hand, he's already tried to gut me once. And I don't want him knowing what he can do with a kitchen knife.
All right, so we've kind of bounced around. Let me give a quick rundown. I'm gonna run down 1 and 2, and we can talk about them together.
I was about to say, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it that way. I was going to suggest we start with 3 because it's such a weird outlier.
We'll
use that as a breaking point after 1 and 2.
So 3. So 1 and 2. 1 starts with what you were talking about. 6-year-old Michael watching his sister fool around with a guy. Kinda, because that dude leaves awful quick. Like they go upstairs. They go upstairs presumably to fool around some more. They're making out on the couch.
Yeah.
And they go upstairs, and by the time Michael has walked around to the back porch, that dude's out on his way out the front door.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened up there.
Yeah.
But it didn't take long. And Michael immediately goes up, stabs his sister to death, then walks back down out front, which is kind of an iconic shot because it's all done in one shot.
Yeah.
It's actually split. There's some plate, but they shot it as one shot. And they shot it 3 times and then cut it together. But it's an iconic shot, iconic scene, great way to start the movie and set the tone.
Totally. I thought it was awesome.
Yep. So fast forward 17 years?
63 to 7, so 15.
15 years.
63
Thanks, John.
to 78.
John's the math guy.
Math.
So we fast forward 16 years. We get back to Haddonfield. Michael Meyers escapes.
Yep.
And returns to Haddonfield, kills poor Automan Phelps, and takes his suit. And of course his psychiatrist, Dr. Sam Loomis, played by
Donald Pleasance.
Thank you, Donald Pleasance. Chases him because he knows he's pure evil, right? And he goes back, and there's some 3 girls that are 2 of them are babysitting. One of them's got a boyfriend, and he kills the two of the girls and her boyfriend, and then tries to kill the 3rd girl, who is Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode.
Yep.
And it doesn't work out.
They did the whole escape thing at the very beginning because they have Loomis and like a nurse driving up towards this hospital, and Loomis is describing, like, we've already seen Michael as a 6-year-old murder his sister, and he's basically just describing what he's dealt with over the last 15 years with this guy as a patient. And then as they're trying to get into this hospital through a gate, Michael comes up and almost murders the nurse he's with, and then steals his first of many cars.
Yeah. Yep. So then that's the end of part 1. Loomis comes in right as he's about to finish Laurie off and shoots him off a balcony.
Yeah.
Like 5 times.
Yeah.
Falls off the balcony.
Well, he only falls off the balcony once, but he shoots him.
Shoots him 5 times.
Shoots him 5 times.
Falls off the balcony.
Yep.
And then they go down to look at the body, and the body's gone.
The body is gone.
Then, I'm as bad as Dan.
Yours worse, I would think. Worse a little bit.
Probably.
2 picks up the next moment with Sam Loomis running outside looking for Michael, but Michael has already escaped. They pack Laurie up into the ambulance, take her to the hospital. Michael Myers kills his way to the hospital with Sam Loomis once again chasing him around the neighborhood, trying to catch him. And then he gets to the hospital, kills a bunch of people in the hospital, and tries to kill Laurie. Sam Loomis returns. I don't know why I keep calling him Sam Loomis. Dr. Loomis returns. I mean, that's his name, but it's not what they ever refer to him as. Dr. Loomis returns at the hospital. They have a showdown with Michael where Dr. Loomis and Michael get blown up in the hospital, and Laurie escapes. Laurie and the kid from Laurie and the Last Starfighter both escaped.
Oh, The Last Starfighter. Yeah. Was this the super dark, weird looking hospital that had like no
Yeah.
staff in it for
Yeah.
some
None of
reason?
it. Yeah, there's no staff, no lights, no lights
I was-
were on.
yeah, like what a weird.
The Haddonfield Hospital is a regular sized hospital with 6 employees.
Yeah.
That didn't pay the light bill.
Yeah, it was super weird. Like every time they're showing the hospital, I'm like, what kind of hospital is this? There's like, it's so dark and dreary, and there's nobody here. Like, how many hospitals have you been in that are just empty like that?
None.
Like they're always packed full of sick people and people, waiting to see the ER, and like there's just nobody here.
There's
Well, how
fluorescent
many-
lighting?
how many hospitals?
Yeah, there's fluorescent lighting, so it's uber bright.
Yeah.
This is the weirdest.
How many
hospital.
hospitals have you been in 78?
That's true. I've never been to one in 78.
I was in one in 79.
That's not 78, is it?
No.
It was better
Okay.
by then.
Okay.
They fixed it by then. Okay.
I don't remember.
So
I'm not a huge fan of Halloween 2.
okay.
I think it's a very weak sequel, and not just weak in comparison. I mean, it is infinitely weak in comparison
Compared to one, for sure.
compared to
Yeah.
one.
I found myself bored a lot through it.
Yep.
I felt like it drug on a lot. Like there were some really long, dull parts of that
Yeah.
movie that I was just like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, well, instead of pacing it out, they kind of lump the kills to, like
Yeah.
there'll be 2 or 3 kills and then nothing for
Yeah.
a while,
Yeah.
and
I find myself being the staunchest 2 defender of the group here.
then you definitely
And,
are.
and by that I mean I liked it fine. Like I thought, as far as slasher movies go, 1 is so far above the curve
Yeah.
that when 2 comes back down and is just okay, like I didn't feel like I could expect too much more than that.
Right.
I could have hoped for another one, but I never would have actually thought I'd get it.
Yep.
And so when I didn't, it's fine.
Yeah. One thing to note, this was still, this was still too where like sequels weren't expected, weren't regular. You know what I mean?
Didn't have to happen.
Didn't have to happen. Yeah, now a sequel's expected. If your movie is good at all, you're probably going to get a sequel.
Yeah.
Well, and this was right at the start. Like, I mean, this really was like the beginning of that slasher
Yes.
craze that went through the 80s.
Right.
Right.
And
And,
so it
and the
was,
sequel craze that went through the 80s,
yeah,
you know?
I mean, yeah, well, like
Yeah.
I say, because every slasher movie that came out in the 80s had 6 more
Right.
that followed it because
Yep.
they were made for no money.
Yep.
They made their initial price plus some back on opening weekend.
Yeah.
And then immediately greenlit the next one to come, and it
Yeah.
didn't matter what it looked like as long as it had the branding.
Yep.
It was fine, And this one was not, because this was like 3 years later.
Yeah, I think it was
they actually filmed it?
81
Yeah, it was
they
like
actually
81.
made it.
So this wasn't like as immediate as a lot of those.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, 1 came out and made a
Yep.
ton of money,
Yep.
comparative to its budget.
Yep.
And so,
Also of note, not always typical for sequels, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill made this one. John Carpenter did not direct this
No,
one, but they did come back to make this
Yeah.
one. Although he was kind of forced into making it because he wanted to make he did not want to make a sequel. He wanted to make The Fog. He had even the guys at was it Dino De Laurentiis, I think, who he was dealing with, had okay, well, we'll make The Fog if you make Halloween 2. And then he went and found somebody else to make The Fog instead, so he didn't have to make Halloween 2, but they sued him over it and kind of forced him to make Halloween 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I think there's definitely a little bit of phoning it in
Yeah.
that you can feel,
which is funny when you're talking about John Carpenter movies, because John Carpenter will become the guy. And again, I'm a John Carpenter fan.
Yeah.
I like a lot of John Carpenter movies, but John Carpenter becomes that guy who, if you call him and you're like, hey, I got a movie and it's not very good, but if we put your name on it, we might be able to recoup the cost of it. And John Carpenter will be like, yeah, whatever.
Cool.
John Carpenter's whatever, that's fine. Send me a check. And I produced it, And so, like, this probably was one of the earlier versions of him being like, I guess this is my movie.
Yeah, seems
and then,
like the start of it.
This may be the one that made him go, I really didn't put that much effort into this, and they just put my name on it, and I got all this money.
I got a big check.
Yeah, so the other thing I think with 2 is that, like, even though we got the reveal of, like, Lori being the sister and everything, she didn't feel like that important of a main character.
Yeah. She spent most of the time in a bed.
She spends most of the time in the bed in the hospital.
Yeah. And a lot of that unconscious.
Right, exactly. So she doesn't... It almost feels like they're kind of wasting Jamie Lee Curtis in this role a little bit.
Well, honestly, like, it's one of the biggest weaknesses of the movie is that there really isn't a... Like,
you're right. And
Loomis,
like,
maybe?
Loomis is kind of like the main character. And I will say, like...
But he's never in any danger until the very end.
You're right. So. I will say that Loomis is a pretty great character, and I'm glad that he was basically, like, in every one of these movies.
Yeah.
That's something else I didn't really know about or wasn't expecting. So, like, it was kind of cool to see him as, like, the reoccurring...
all the way through.
Like, he was, if he wasn't, like, the main actor, he was always, like, the guide that was there to, like, help whoever.
Well, and
like a harbinger that never went away.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
like I said, I
was going to die.
I had seen H2O and Resurrection, and then went back and saw the first, but I had never seen those middle ones, and so I knew Donald Pleasance was notable addition to these movies.
Yeah.
But I never in a million years would have guessed he made it all the way through 6.
Yeah.
And so every time we started a new one and his name popped up in the credits, I got excited.
Right.
And even in the bad ones, I still liked him.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that he's an important part of Michael Myers as much as he is a character himself.
Definitely.
Because he's the one the whole time, and we'll talk about some of the, like, the cult, and he's the chosen, he's cursed, he's chosen, whatever, right? That comes in the later ones. But through it all, even through the first one, you've got Sam Loomis telling everybody he's evil, he's pure evil. I've seen, and it makes him feel... Like, had you just watched the movie without Dr. Loomis, and here's this tall dude running around, and you're just like, hey, shoot him.
Yeah.
Why didn't somebody... you know what I'd do? I'd grab one of them chairs, and I'd smack this dude around.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you've got Dr. Loomis there going, he's not human. We're not dealing with a person. We're dealing with pure evil.
Yeah.
So, it gives him that extra, that little bit of supernatural... feeling that we don't need explained. I mean, he's almost Lovecraftian in that, they treat him like he's just something that's never explained that we can't understand. He's just Michael Myers.
Well, and then the other thing with the Loomis character is that, I mean, he never becomes like the joke, or like he is. They always take him seriously. So like when he shows up, you got that thing through the Friday the 13th where, like, basically every Friday the 13th movie has that moment where somebody's like, it's Jason Voorhees, he's back, and everyone else in the movie is like, that old wives' tale, that old legend
that's that
didn't really exist, whatever. Like, in all of these movies, you have Dr. Loomis running in going, Michael Myers, he's coming, and then you have 40 cop cars going to wherever they need to be.
That's another thing that's different about these movies. Like, nobody believed in Jason Voorhees. Nobody believed in Freddy Krueger.
Right.
They were myths and whatever. Everybody knows about Michael Myers, and they know that he's a murder machine. So when his name gets brought up... like you said, the cops get out there.
Right.
Like the mob of hillbillies start trying to hunt him down. Like, that's like a thing in these movies. Yeah. Like, people know the name.
Even the moments where, like, even when there's skepticism, it's not completely blown off.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a couple of times where, like, whatever sheriff who happens to be in the movie will be like, I don't, he's locked up, he's fine, we're gonna be okay, but we'll go look around for him anyway.
Well, and you got, like, dumb teenagers dressing as Michael Myers for Halloween, which brought us to that.
Yeah, that's another reason I have to like 2, because it's got the greatest moment in cinema history.
Where that teenager gets plowed by a cop car into that ambulance and then explodes.
I overstated it. There's probably better scenes, but man, I laughed harder at that moment than I did at any other part of my weekend. Because there's a part in 2 when it's right after 1 ended, and they're at the beginning of 2 still, and Michael Myers has disappeared, and so they're out looking for him. And at one point, they find a guy who's dressed like him, and they think it might be him. And this guy's walking out in the middle of the street on Halloween night, and all of a sudden this cop car.
Well, Loomis is chasing them with a gun. Also.
Well, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
So he's running into the street, and I mean, as the movie watcher, you can tell it's not Michael Myers, but you don't know what's about to happen. And then through the middle of this residential neighborhood, in the middle of Halloween night, this cop car doing 78
easily
miles an hour easily plows through this kid, banks him into an ambulance, and everything explodes. It is hilarious.
It was insane.
It was something else.
Oh my god,
it's something else. And then I always wonder about that because, like you said, we obviously know that's not Michael Myers. But the movie kind of treats it, and then it like a long time goes by before we actually see Michael Myers again.
Yeah.
And when we do, he gets like this triumphant return scene, and like I've always wondered, like, did they think they fooled us? Does this movie think I thought that was Michael Myers? Because I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that also, so that also kind of starts a thing in these movies. There's a lot of collateral damage in these movies.
Yeah.
A lot of people die that Michael Myers. I mean, Michael Myers is far and away kills more people, but there's a lot of people in these movies that die that aren't killed by Michael Myers.
Yep, for sure.
But I mean that it just adds to the mystique almost. Like if you've got this guy roaming around your town, everyone's going to be in a panic, and accidents are going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on 1 and 2?
They're so good. Well, one's so good.
One's so good.
Is so good.
One's so good.
Yeah. And I guess just the final thing I'll add too about like Jamie Lee Curtis's character, like the Laurie Strode character, like as somebody who had only seen like H2O and everything when I was probably a teenager when those came out.
Yeah.
And then like
H2O was like 98.
Yeah, so I was in high school. I was like a senior in high school, or junior. So, like, knowing about these movies, like, after the fact and from the outside, like, I know the type of character Laurie becomes, and I know that she, like, I know about the fight between the two characters. So, when you go back and experience these for the first time, especially with 2, where she's basically nothing, like, she's just laying in a bed the whole time, that was a little shocking and a little disappointing, almost. Not that, like, in the way that it ruined anything, because like I loved the first movie.
Yeah.
It was just very different, I think, than I was expecting going in, knowing the information going into it. You know what I mean? So that definitely changed my perspective of it. If I had seen that cold and had no idea, that wouldn't have even been a thought in my head. But since I already knew, going into it with that perspective does kind of change things a little bit.
Also, like, it's not to add anything to the movie itself necessarily, but that shot in 1 toward the end when they're going through the house and Laurie's looking for him and trying to get away or whatever's going on, and he comes out of that closet, just that pure darkness, and you just see the mask, and that has got to be
so good.
One of the most iconic shots.
They tried to
by far
recreate
in
it
slasher history.
Yeah, it's so
but
good.
in movie history, that is just one of the most amazing bits of cinematography you can imagine. That moment is just pure chill.
It's so good because it's like just barely lit, but enough where you can see it, just like in the pure darkness in the closet. It's so cool,
and it all makes sense as a practical effect. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like anything that they had to way overdo to get the shot.
Yeah,
it just works perfectly.
Yeah, it's so good, and they definitely knew that was good because they tried to recreate that multiple times throughout the franchise.
Yeah,
and it's always pretty cool every time you see it. But that original shot is amazing.
Yeah, it's always cool because it looks kind of neat, but it's mostly always cool because it reminds you of that first one.
Yeah, it's cool because it's a callback, and you're like, oh yeah,
and it's not it's not even highlighted as some amazing thing. Like it doesn't play as this giant cinematic moment because it plays just as that moment, as that scare factor of him popping out. But as you're watching it, man, like watch that moment and don't shudder at it. I dare you.
There's just like his look too. Like there's something so effective about his look, and it's simple, because it's the plain white Captain Kirk mask with the ruffled hair or whatever in a jumpsuit.
Yeah,
and he's just a regular guy underneath. He's not a demon or a
Yep.
mongoloid
That's
or
it.
anything
he
like
is the
that.
absolute
But
perfect slasher.
It's like the simpleness
icon.
of it is what's so effective about it. I think. I don't know. It's such a great look.
That's the as we'll expand upon when we get into further movies. But I think it is the very first movie. The mask does come off for a moment, right?
The very first
just
movie.
for a second, yeah.
Yeah. First, and it only happens a few times, and it is always just for a second.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I love so much about the character is because you have, I mean, the easiest relation you can make from the slasher genre is the Jason character between the two. You know, they're fairly similar as far as that goes. But Jason is like he doesn't even exist in the first one, and then he is just this big deformed monster, and then he becomes the zombie guy, and then he just keeps morphing into this bigger and bigger thing. But there's always that they show anytime they get behind Jason's mask, it's to show more and more grotesque of a picture of what he is.
Right.
Michael Myers is a dude, and that's one of the things that makes him so scary. Like, yes, he's beyond that, but as far as practical explanations goes, there it is. And through this, what is it, like 9 movies we watched, something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, they show his face or a silhouette or something like that, 3, maybe 4 times. But every time they do, I mean, they put enough distance in between. It doesn't happen every movie, so they don't overplay it. And every time you get that glimpse, it's just that quick reminder of like that mask comes off, and you're like, there's nothing weird here.
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's just this dude who is a force of evil nature, and that makes it that much more chilling, I think.
I love his mannerisms too. Like, he's got the slow walk. He does the head tilt thing a lot. He's so cognizant. He's totally where Kane got his whole thing from. I can tell.
Well, and the Undertaker.
Well, the Undertaker's right with the sit up and everything.
Because he does the Undertaker sit up. How many times have we watched these movies together and go bong?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
But that's that's exactly it. That's the point of how perfect this character is, because he is this unstoppable force. But like Jason is this mindless killing machine, and Michael Myers comes off as that mostly. But then every once in a while, he has a plan, or he steals a car. Or or the mask comes off, or something that makes you realize. Something that makes you realize,
he's the driving a slasher.
Yeah, he's the driving a slasher that we've seen.
No joke there. But it says they do something that makes you realize, like, this dude's pretty grounded.
Yeah,
not like, oh, this could happen to me by any means, but at the same time, like, there's nothing beyond about this character.
Not too over the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Not too over the top.
And that makes it that much creepier.
Yep,
in my opinion.
For sure. I agree.
All right.
So after 2, we move on to 3.
Yeah.
Now 3 of note again. 3 is another Carpenter Deborah Hill production. They wrote it, and they helped write it. They
put their name.
They were the show. Sure. Yeah, they were the showrunners. Well, they had somebody, the guy who wrote, I just watched a making of on it today. So 3 is Season of the Witch, and 3 is a departure from Michael Myers, because the pitch was, we're going to make one of these Halloween movies every year. What if we just every year was like a story that happens about Halloween? It doesn't have to be Michael Myers.
Turn into an anthology.
Yes, right. 3's a really cool concept to do something like that. That is executed poorly, and I'm really glad they went back to the other thing.
Yeah. So you said they put their names on. They actually did not put their names on it. The making of I was watching today, the guy who made it, I don't remember his name. He worked on the first one. He was stunt coordinator production designer on the first one, and then he directed and wrote and directed the third one. What he said was that the guy and the English guy who wrote the Quatermass movies.
What?
They're an English horror movie.
Oh, okay.
If you were English, you'd know them. They were the first big hit for Hammer Films, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But he wrote those, and so they got him, and he wrote the first script, and then they didn't like it, so John Carpenter did a pass, and then the guy who ended up directing it did the final pass, but nobody else put their name on it.
Yeah.
So
I tell you, script evolution is one of the most fascinating things in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be. So in this movie, we have a doctor, and I don't even remember the doctor's name, who basically he discovers that there's something weird with this company, the Silver Shamrock, that is making Halloween masks.
Is that guy a doctor?
That guy's yeah, that's
Not a doctor.
The Hopper character?
yes.
Hopper.
He is a doctor.
That's right.
Remember, because
Wow.
he meets that chick's dad. So he's working one night.
Oh, that's right.
When a chick's dad, when another old guy comes in, and he's been hurt real bad, and he's raving, and he's got one of the masks, and he's ranting and raving about the mask. Then this dude in the suit comes in, murders that guy, then walks out into the parking lot and blows himself up in a car.
Yeah.
And this doctor sees all that. Then the guy's daughter shows up and says, "Oh, he went to see the Silver Shamrock in the Silver Shamrock town." And I don't remember,
Silver Sham Town.
I don't remember exactly how the conversation went. But so the doctor goes with this chick to check out the Silver Shamrock and figure out what's going on. They discover that it's an order of druids who have stolen a piece of Stonehenge.
Yeah.
And so there's this order of druids that has an army of robots, has stolen this piece of Stonehenge, and they're cutting off little chips of it and putting them in the masks. And then when they play this commercial, it makes those chips of Stonehenge murder whoever's wearing the mask. Basically, it turns them into like bugs and melts them.
It like melts their
Yeah.
brains and their heads, and then bugs and snakes
Yeah.
and all kinds of things come crawling out of what was left of them.
Yep.
It's super weird.
Right.
Kind of gruesome.
Yeah.
But and then the whole point is like to do like a mass like
Yeah, like to appease the druid god thing. or
some
whatever.
ritual, something.
yeah, like that's how
I'll
they
be
kinda-
honest, I checked out a third of the way
Man.
of this movie. The only thing I took away from this movie, and I'm positive that I'm 110% wrong, but also you'll never be able to convince me otherwise, is that David Harbour completely based Hopper from Stranger Things on this guy.
Dude, this guy. Well, and the girl he was running around with, like they looked.
So, yeah,
they
totally looked like Winona Ryder.
Looked like
Yeah.
Hopper and Winona Ryder running
Yeah.
around looking for some Stranger Things.
For
Yeah.
sure. You are not exaggerating. But also, to be fair, I mean, that dude was just, I mean, in the 80s, right? That dude was like the pinnacle of cool, right? He had the not Tom Selleck
No,
mustache, and
Like that dude knew what the pieces to cool were, but I don't know that he embodied them.
Oh, okay.
You know,
well, I guess I meant that type
Yeah.
of dude.
like if I put on a leather jacket, I ain't the Fonz. You know what I mean?
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's like what so it's a sacrifice, right? Like they want to do a mass sacrifice.
Yes.
To whatever god this is,
Yeah.
so that this god grants
God of
them
weird,
some
the
sort
god
of
of weird
powers or
melty
something.
bugs.
Yeah. It's like they're
God
and they're
of
going to
weird
get some sort
melty
of
bugs.
powers or something. They think, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like
Maybe
the whole
they all
thing.
become Stonehenge.
It's
I don't
crazy.
know. Like I said, I checked out a third of the way through.
It's.
Well,
I kept watching scenes happen, but I didn't care why anymore.
I will say that this turned up the gruesomeness factor from the last two movies, because Michael Myers mostly just stabbed people. This movie gave us some pretty grotesque, like, horror movie type shots.
Magic.
Yeah, because there was lots of magic powers and lasers and weird
Hey,
stuff.
Wait, that might be the next movie. Never mind.
Well, I was thinking like the mom who picked up her kid's mask off the ground and like noticed the little button inside, and she's like messing with the button and it lasers her in the face.
Yep.
And like she's got like that big gaping, like her lips and teeth are all mangled and gross looking. It's awful.
Then a bug crawls out of it.
And then the bugs crawl out
Yeah.
of it. Yeah. And then like they
Which
got
is,
the
like that. That's my favorite part of it, because like that is blatantly just there for grotesque factor.
right. Yeah, the bugs
it's like-
crawling out.
Yeah, like so this magic laser beam just creates bugs.
Well, the only defense I will make on that is like, druids are generally,
Very buggy.
nature worshippers, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I mean, turn them into bugs or turn them to nature. I can see a little like
That's-
a
well, that's
little
like I get the relation,
Very
sure, but
thin
it's just
to
one
me,
of those
yeah.
like it plays off like these bugs are escaping this head that there weren't bugs in.
Yeah.
Like, how did the bugs get there to escape through the, you know?
I thought druids just helped the Undertaker walk to the ring at WrestleMania.
Some druids.
Oh, okay.
They're a different sex of druid.
Different
Okay,
sex,
gotcha.
Funny.
But like that, the part
She
where
didn't
they
look Druish.
the part where they lock that family into that room and basically make them test subjects for the commercial.
Yeah.
And like
They murder a kid.
that kid's head explodes and like
Yep.
melts,
Yeah.
and then
Right there in front of his parents.
Right in front of his parents,
While
and
they're basically ignoring him.
right. Well, and then all the bugs and everything that crawl out of his head kill the parents.
Yeah.
So then they die too. It's like, oh god, it's pretty gross stuff actually. But like I love the way that they like win. Oh yeah, well, we forgot to mention there's like robots too.
No, he
Like,
mentioned.
oh, did you mention the
yeah.
robots?
The army of-
army
yeah.
So
of
the
robots.
druids have robots
that bleed,
Right.
yeah, that bleed yellow.
that bleed yellow. So we thought they were like phantasms.
Yeah,
Tall men.
yeah.
They're
I
yeah.
thought like, I did get excited at one point. I'm like, I'm gonna figure out what a phantasm is.
Don and Jim Tallman.
Yeah,
Tallman's. So, so like the way that
happy.
he beat them was like he because he snuck into their lair.
Yeah.
Where like the big Stonehenge piece was, and he hacked, I guess, for lack of a better term, their system
Yep.
to make that commercial play.
Right.
And as the commercial's playing, he like threw a whole bunch of them buttons out there on top. So like it rained buttons on top of them. So they all got lasered to death.
Yeah.
And then that was it. He
It
beat
also
him.
well it
So
also
amazing.
activated the
It
big
activated
piece.
the big one, which zapped like the main druid guy.
Yeah.
And killed
and,
him.
And
Yeah.
maybe destroyed the factory.
maybe destroyed the place.
Yeah.
And then
we'll just assume it did.
And then his next step was he's got to go stop that commercial from playing to the world.
Which he does by calling.
Well, don't
Hold
forget
on.
don't forget the chicks also.
Yeah,
wrote
because
by-
on his way there, the chick that he's been hanging out with the whole time turns out to be one of those robots.
Oh my goodness! I forgot all about that.
And he totally hooked up with her at one
Yeah.
point. But she was a robot the whole time, I guess.
See, I think she was a robot after they
Yeah,
captured
you
her. I
think
think
okay.
they made her a
turned into a
robot.
robot
So
when
they
they had- 'cause
turned
they
her
had
into
her
a robot,
captured.
or they
Right.
made a robot
Yeah,
of her.
they made a robot
Yeah.
that looked like her.
Okay,
maybe.
so maybe
yeah.
that-
Yeah, she's
I would-
super dead.
So I guess she was dead.
She's super dead.
I would
Okay.
feel better about that.
Yeah.
Than
That
just being
that
fooled
does
by
because
a
I
robot
forgot
the whole
about
time.
that entire thing right there. But yeah.
So he gets away from her after
Yep.
cutting her in half.
Yep, and then he
worst
called-
case of
yeah.
getting cut in half I've ever seen.
and then he dials 1-800 network.
yes.
And talks to the customer service desk at all major networks because they're all run by one button apparently.
Right.
And yells at that guy to shut off all of the broadcasts, but that guy only shuts off 2 of them.
So there
for
was
some
3
reason.
channels apparently.
Well,
and-
that
and-
plays.
Okay. And
Because
the
there
one guy on
NBC,
the phone,
CBS, and
there you
ABC.
go.
That's
So-
all there was at that
So
time.
the one guy on the phone was able to control all of them, and
Yeah.
he turned 2 of them off,
Yeah.
but not the third
That's
one.
the ridiculous part.
Yeah. And then the movie ends without us knowing if it got shut
Yeah,
off
it
in
ends
time.
with him screaming, "You gotta shut off the third! You gotta shut off the third!"
Well, it's
Halloween.
well, it's a total. It's totally
Stupid.
no.
I don't
It's-
think "knows" the right word.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
totally stupid. But it's a pod people. It's
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
the pod people.
Yep.
Help me out.
Invasion
of Body Snatchers
Body
finish.
Snatchers. There we go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because that's the one
Leave it
where
up to you to decide.
Donald Sutherland runs out into the street trying to stop him, but all the pod trucks just drive past them, and he's doing the no.
Oh, yeah.
And that was in like the second or third version of that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Huh.
So, I have a story to tell about. It's not a big story.
Tell.
When I remember starting to go back and try and watch these movies in order and see the whole progression and franchise. For the longest time, I had a hard time finding 2 because a lot of places didn't have Halloween 2.
Yeah.
And they all had, and the places I went had 3, but it was never in. It was always out.
Weird.
Yeah. So it was like a long time, and I watched through a bunch of them before I finally was able to like rent 3. And man, was I excited when I was like, "Oh, it's 3!
It's finally here.
It's finally here!"
This must be really good because it's hard to find.
Yeah, I was like, "This must be the best one."
Yeah.
And I took it home and watched it for the first time, and it was not the best one. I remember I remember waiting that whole movie for Michael Myers to show up.
Yeah, I can see
I remember that movie getting done and like being like, did I rent the wrong thing?
Yeah.
Did I called Family Video and I was like, hey man,
Sticker's wrong.
yeah,
Stickers are wrong.
legitimately. I called Family Video and I was like, hey man, so I think somebody switched your, like, I just watched Halloween 3 and it's not Michael Myers in it. He was like, it's
I wonder
this
how
other
many
thing.
calls they got about that movie. I bet they got real tired of
I mean, he did not seem surprised.
Yeah,
he was not like, oh, what, you didn't know? No, he was just like, yeah, it's kind of a thing, kid.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I don't know. I was like, this is weird, man. Is it supposed to be? And I was asking, I was like, is there like another Halloween series that this was part of? And he was like, no, it's just this thing. Like, this is so weird.
I think I would have said yes to that question because, as I said, we watched. I mean, there's 11 movies marked Halloween, and I literally think there's 5 different series.
I don't think that's true.
Well, okay, one.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
You're talking about all the
Because,
timelines?
Three's its own thing.
Because they changed the story.
Yeah, Three's its
yeah.
own thing, and then there's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. That's
We
the
definitely
second
have
one.
different timelines
And then there's
going on.
1, 2,
We got branching paths.
H2O and Resurrection.
Yep.
Which I could almost argue are 2 different ones.
Yeah.
They're even. I could make a stern argument that H2O ends one, and then there's another one that's after H2O. You know what I mean? And then there's one and the new one. You know, and then there's the Rob Zombie one. So somewhere between like
We
4
do
and
have a
6
lot of Halloween
different actual
timelines.
timelines
You're
in
right.
this
You're
franchise here. The other thing I will say about 3, I would give a similar description of what we said earlier about the Rob Zombie ones.
Yeah.
Like, I respect the effort. Not as a movie, because this movie's garbage from start to
It's a
finish.
garbage movie.
But as a concept of taking Halloween and turning it into an anthology, like, I really enjoy that idea.
Yeah.
I think that's a really fun idea. You got to do better than this if you're going to do it. And I'm super glad that they went back to this character I really enjoyed and made a bunch of movies I really liked afterwards instead.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the thought. Also, in comparison with the Rob Zombie Halloweens, and maybe this is a hot take, I don't know, I dislike this less than I disliked Rob Zombie's Halloween.
I don't even compare. I don't know if I disagree or I wouldn't even. I've never even compared them. I just don't want to watch these movies anymore.
Yeah, don't want to see either of them again ever.
So there's the narrative always. You hear people. Some people will say if it wasn't called Halloween, if it was just called Season of the Witch, it's just a good little horror movie. It'd have done a lot better. Now go watch this movie. The director. I've heard lots of people. I've heard lots of people who want to make that argument.
Paycheck from it doesn't count. Or anybody who wants another paycheck from someone else.
It has this weird little cult following.
I think it's got a fan base.
That are like, oh, Halloween 3, it's so different, it's so good. No, it's bad. It's bad, guys.
I would very much like to debate one of these people.
Yeah, yeah, because it's
do we have a call-in number?
It's like it's like a movie of the week material. You know, if you see it.
So that's what I was gonna.
What was
say.
that? What was that?
If you see it on Svengoolie, you're like, this should be on.
Yeah.
What was that?
This is a
redneck guy
movie
that used to host.
That's Billy Bob.
It is Billy Bob.
It is. I know exactly.
Well,
what
it
you're
was
talking about.
I
USA.
know Svengoolie and Grandpa Munster.
USA used to run like late night, like marathon type things, and sometimes they'd be hosted by Elvira.
Okay.
And sometimes they'd be hosted by like this Billy Bob.
Oh, I don't
something. And I can't even see this necessarily being one of the Elvira ones, but I could totally see it being one of the Billy Bob guys.
It's like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 movie.
Joe Bob Briggs.
That might be it.
Joe Bob's Drive-In.
Yep, I think that's it.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
That's the one you're talking about, I think.
The funny thing, randomly too, is like 9 out of 10 weekends they would be USA horror marathons when they would do a marathon, and then every once in a blue moon there would be an overnight USA marathon that was just like Saved by the Bell or some random thing. Man, the
weird.
80s and 90s were a bizarre
Still figuring it out.
So that's exactly what you were just kind of saying a second ago. Like, I try to take myself out of the mindset of like, this is a Michael Myers franchise, and try to look at it as just because it definitely plays like one of those dumb kind of horror movies that is fun to watch because it's so dumb.
Right.
Like, we were watching this and laughing at it and making fun of it the entire time we were watching it. Because we were like, this is dumb. Yeah. Just dumb.
This movie has value if you don't watch it alone.
I guess so, yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, okay, I didn't like this movie very much.
Right.
But it definitely plays like a dumb...
Like a bad movie.
Like, B-movie. Like, you would see, like, movie of the week, freak of the week kind of thing. That's for sure what this feels like to me. So,
well, it's that homebrew mystery science theater thing.
Yeah.
If you can sit around in a room full of buddies and just laugh at how absolutely absurd everything is, then you can enjoy yourself for 90 minutes while this is playing. But, man, that's not because it did anything right.
It's not because it's good, yeah.
I like the masks. They look
cool. The masks.
I like that skeleton mask.
The skeleton mask was kind of neat.
Focus, Dan. Focus.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Toys. Nerd.
One more day till Halloween. Halloween.
How long have you been singing that?
Oh my God, I can't get it out of my head ever since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, that is
Silver Shamrock.
That is an icon of earworms.
Dude, they played that a million times in that movie. Just every chance they got.
Yeah. I'm going to make that my ringtone.
All right, let's move on. More Michael Myers.
Halloween 4.
Back to him.
Yeah,
Halloween 4.
Let's do Halloween 4.
All right, tell me about it, guys.
This is what I like to call the start of the Jamie trilogy.
Yeah.
Quadrology?
No.
Trilogy. No, just 3. Sorry.
Just 3 movies about Jamie. So this movie, they did that thing which annoys me a lot, where they kill off the main character off screen between movies.
Yeah.
Because Laurie Strode died in a car crash, the way they explain it in this movie. But she apparently had a daughter, and that's Jamie. We get introduced to Jamie in this movie. And she is adopted, right? Like, yes. Jamie's been adopted. Since Laurie died in a car crash. Did
we ever figure out who those, like, were they just people who adopted a random girl, or were they of some relation?
Well, you know what? That's what's weird. In 4, they say she's adopted. In 5, they call her stepsister. So it's
they do make a point even in 4 where, like, they're referring to each other as sisters.
Yeah.
But, like, the little girl's like, we're not even real sisters or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you're referring to or how specific they get, but stepsisters, like, is one of those terms you can just use. Sometimes you can't say, she's my sister, but not really my sister because this is my family relation. So you just say the word stepsister.
So I think Rachel was her stepsister because, like, the thing I'm reading right here says that her foster parents were Richard and Darlene Carruthers.
Right.
Which comes up at the end of the movie specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel's like her stepsister, but is kind of like her guardian through the whole movie because she's the one that's like trying to keep her safe.
But are they of any relation to the Strodes? Or?
I don't think so. Their last name's
so they just like picked her up through an agency. That's kind of my
probably.
question.
I guess that's probably what happened. I guess if Laurie died and there was nobody, maybe Laurie's parents aren't around.
Right.
If there's nobody for the kid to go to, she might have just had to go into foster care and then was adopted.
Yeah.
So that's probably what happened there. So lengthy explanation for how Jamie ended up in this movie. But so she's Laurie's daughter.
And I give a pass on the movie. Like, I don't love when they do stuff like that, but like there are times where Jamie Lee Curtis didn't want to do another one.
Right.
And I don't blame her for that.
That's fine.
And I don't blame the Halloween people for wanting to go back to Michael Myers. And so there's an impasse. So what's better? Do you pretend it never happened at all?
Right.
Or do you just say, well, here's what happened to her?
So
it happens.
Here's the thing. This is another one of those instances where I probably only cared because I was coming into it from the other end.
Yeah.
Already knowing about Laurie and where she was going to end up. So that was a little weird to me to hear she's dead. How's that work? How does that play into everything? Yeah. That's lame. That's kind of how I felt when they first announced it. However, this movie quickly picks up and becomes its own thing that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
This is the first instance that we kind of get some of the more supernatural kind of stuff because Jamie is psychically linked to Michael for some reason or another. They're related. They've got some sort of link. That's kind of how Michael, I think, even finds out that she exists and why he's coming back to Haddonfield to get her. And she can, like, sense him, and she, like, keeps having visions of him murdering people, and like it's almost like those instances where she can like feel it happening, or like you kind of see her moving in the same way that he's moving, and they do all these kind of teases with her.
She sees through him, so like when he's with someone that he's about to kill, she can tell it's happening, basically, something like that.
Right. And they do some real neat callbacks throughout the movie, like there's the part where they're in the drugstore looking at the Halloween stuff, and she's wearing a clown costume, much like Michael was wearing when he murdered his big sister at the beginning of the first movie. And like she looks in the mirror and sees herself and then has that vision of Michael. It's pretty neat stuff, because they're starting to really tie back to a lot of the things from the first movie, which really, it's really neat, because especially coming off of 3, you can see how they're like trying to remind everybody, like, let's go back to
Remember
what
how much you
loved.
like this thing.
Remember how much you loved 1? Well, let's go ahead and bring all that stuff back in. But I really liked it. I thought that stuff was really cool.
I dug it a lot too. Can we backtrack for just a second?
Sure.
In 2 is when they start to make some sort of reference to some sort of curse or something along that line, right?
In 2, there's that scene,
the Sam Hain thing. What was that?
Well, that's when Loomis is in the school for some reason. He had tracked Michael to the school or through the school, and Michael had killed somebody there and written Sam Hain in blood on the chalkboard. It was super like a throwaway line. And then he explains Sam Hain wrong. It's not even pronounced Sam Hain. It's Sam Hain. It's Sawain, I think, is how it's pronounced. And they pronounce it wrong and explain it wrong, and it's just all kinds of randomly thrown. But he doesn't actually tie it. Like, there's no tie-in. It's all just...
Okay. So it's just sort of a throwaway thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a throwaway thing.
I forgot to bring it up when we were talking about too, because I wanted to make sure that stuff is hit on as we're going through these, because eventually we get deeper into the woods on some of that weird cultish stuff.
Yeah, well, that's coming up here in the next couple movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, this basically becomes a new chase where, Laurie's dead now, but Michael wants to kill her daughter now, so that kind of becomes the focus. Like, he's chasing,
I don't feel like there's a lot to expand on in this movie, because it's just sort of another installment, except that it's really well done.
It's really well done. So we can just get to the end of this one.
Well,
right?
it's more of the spiritual successor to 1.
It really does feel
even
more
2
like
is.
it. Absolutely,
for sure.
And
it's way better than 2.
It's way better than 2.
Absolutely.
Loomis is back. Loomis has been burned.
They explain,
right?
they explain it because he very definitively died at the end of 2.
But he exploded big in 2.
Just shows up at the beginning of this one with a little burn on his face, which also gets better.
That was the weird part, because he had a huge burn on the face when he shows up, and then like a third of the way through, he's kind of burned.
So the story behind that. They shot most of the movie, most of his scenes with the big burn.
Yeah.
And then they were watching some of it, and he was there with his wife, girlfriend, and apparently Donald Pleasance is a big drinker. So him and his...
I can see that.
Yeah, for sure. But him and his girlfriend or wife or whatever were drunk, and she said something about, it looks like you got a fried egg. Because it's this kind of weird, flat prosthetic with like a boil in the middle.
Yeah.
And so she's like, it looks like you got an egg on your face. And so he got super self-conscious about that, made them redo the makeup and go back and reshoot all of his scenes with the new makeup. But some of the fried eggs still got through in the edit.
That's insane.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh man,
like, I have great respect for Donald Pleasance as an actor and his contribution to this franchise, and I cannot imagine how quickly I would have told him, no, I'm not going to reshoot this whole movie.
Yeah,
because your drunk girlfriend made a joke.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Holy cow, that's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, so he comes back, and because he does the same thing in this, like he finds out about Jamie and starts trying to protect Jamie from Michael, and same song and dance with that whole thing.
Well, they're picking Michael up. Michael's been in a coma for this one.
Yes.
For however many years.
He also definitively died along with Loomis, but nope, they both survived the explosion.
Right. And this would have been made in 80...
Whatever is the most 80s year is the year before that.
Let's say I think five was 89.
Whatever year is the
88.
most 80s 80 year. Like it's the year before that one.
Well, this was because that's the other thing with with the Friday the 13th. It's like 8 of those are within a year of each other,
right?
And then there's a couple of outliers.
Yeah.
Like the Fridays was like 78 and then 81, so there's a little bit of break there.
Yep.
And then I think 82 was 3, but then it was like 88 before 4 came out, I believe.
For what?
For the Halloween series.
For the Halloweens, yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, there's gaps between these. Mm-hmm. And generally, they play right into the movies. Because, again, every Friday the 13th felt like it was 30 years after the last one by the way they referenced the characters and stuff like that.
Right.
These pretty well follow a timeline.
Yep.
Like, when they make a new one 6 years later, they go, remember 6 years ago when all these people got killed? Right. And so, there's that jump there, but it's well explained within the process.
Yeah.
So
he's been in the coma for
5 or 6
years.
Yeah.
They decide to move him, and of course he immediately wakes up and kills the...
Well, he wakes up when they start talking about his sister dying, but having the kid.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they reference how Lori, he had been hunting this Lori, but she ended up dying in an accident after he went down, but she did have a kid before she died.
Oh, okay.
And so that's out there somewhere. I don't remember exactly how they say it, but that's when he pops up.
Yeah.
That reignites him.
I gotcha.
I have a reason to live still.
Yeah, there's a Meyers to murder.
Yeah, there's a Meyers to murder. So the ending of this movie is one of my favorite endings of all the movies. Actually,
probably my second favorite.
It's yeah. So they escape in the end, Jamie and Rachel, right?
Yep.
And so we've got the nice.
They don't escape. They blow him down a mine shaft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blow him down a mine shaft.
They murder Michael. All of the cops.
Right.
Murder Michael.
Yeah.
And then he falls down a mine shaft and explodes.
Right.
Well, I guess he just sort of fell down it in this one.
Yeah, they just fell down it in this one. We get that in the beginning of the next one.
They get so
they think that they've defeated Michael again. And then we get the reunion at home, and Rachel and Jamie go home, and Loomis is with them, and she sees her step parents and her
it's on Halloween still.
It's on Halloween, and her stepmom's like, "Oh, let's go upstairs, and I'll run you a bath." And
she did end up getting that clown costume.
Yep,
she went.
She's been in the clown costume most of the movie.
So she's wearing that clown costume, and then the movie ends very much the same way the very first movie starts, where we get kind of the first person deal, where she puts the little clown mask on, and she's got a pair of scissors, and she walks in and just starts stabbing her stepmom while she's running that bath. And then we get that amazing scene where Loomis runs up the stairs and sees her standing there holding those bloody scissors the exact same way he found Michael at the beginning of the first movie. And it was amazing.
Yeah. Because he almost blows this 8-year-old. He almost blows this 8-year-old away, and the cop runs up and stops him and stuff. And again, to fully set that moment for anyone who either hasn't seen it or it's been a while, when you gloss over it, you kind of lose the effect there. Because if you're watching that in the moment, outside of knowing that there's 8 more of these movies or whatever the heck, this is the moment where, from Loomis's standpoint, they have finally killed Michael, which is a little weird because they just shot him down a well instead of actually exploding him.
Like last time.
But it's accepted that he's gone and dead, and they've moved on from this thing, and the little girl's safe. And Loomis's life has been revolving around this maniac who he feels is pure evil incarnate. And the reason he is such an unstoppable force is because of that nature within him. And he's finally destroyed this thing after 15 years of taking care of it as a patient, and then 6 or 8 years of watching it murder things and trying to kill it. It's finally over, and he saved this little girl. And the moment everything settles down, he looks up to the top of the stairs and sees 6-year-old Michael again, the way he first met him when the whole thing first started to basically unravel his life. In this new little girl, it's all starting again for him 10 years later or whatever. That is so powerful. In the moment itself.
So effective. It was so well done. It was one of those, that movie ended and I was basically applauding it in my living room because I was so excited by the way that movie ended. I was like, this is amazing. Like
because the assumption is again, looking at it from '88, if it was a new thing, that now this kid is like the new Michael Myers in this girl.
Yeah.
But she is now evil incarnate. She has inherited whatever.
Right. Exactly.
It looked
like
Michael.
That's what they were setting up for a possibility
Yeah.
of maybe doing, you know?
And then the idea is like, not only is he unstoppable, even if you stop him, it just comes back.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it was so cool. It was so well done.
So great.
I mean, this easily shot this up to being my second favorite of the franchise, and it might still be my second favorite of the whole franchise. Like, there's a couple more that I really like, but like the power of this one, especially with the ending, was just so special.
I think I put it at 3.
We'll talk. We'll
we'll
get back
rank
to
it
that.
at the end.
I'd be willing to debate that point.
So
but
then,
again, in and of itself, an absolutely perfect ending until 5 starts.
a great movie.
All right,
And then
so
5 starts.
5 starts
and takes it to the next
He's
level.
all over it.
So 5 starts with so this basically picks up exactly where that one left off, and we see that Michael just falls down the mine shaft and escapes out the back into a creek while the mine shaft gets exploded by dynamite.
Yeah, they drop a stick of dynamite down the mine shaft.
So they just completely miss him, and he gets away and floats down a creek for a while,
And then goes to sleep for like a year.
and then falls into a coma for a year. And some
bum drifter.
Yeah.
I don't know, or no. He climbs out of the river, walks into this. I don't know if he's a bum or a drifter. He
lives
lives
a hermit.
A hermit who lives on a cot. He lives in like a cottage next to the river. Like Michael Myers stumbles in like he's about to kill this guy, then falls over dead, and the guy just leaves him there on the floor for a year.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up and kills the guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's so weird.
It's terrible.
And then,
Crazy is one word.
And then we get to see Jamie, and now she's been admitted into like a children's hospital of some sort, like a mental kind of hospital.
It's a weird because
she's
like,
a mute now.
Yeah, I was about to, well, sorta, but like not.
Sort of. So like they kind of explain it like she's got trauma from the attempted murder of her stepmom, who we found out didn't die. She just got stabbed, but she's alive still. Which I don't know, man. To me, I was so disappointed by all of this because I felt like it was one of those things that kind of undid how magical that moment was at the end of that movie, and now it's just like,
well, and
I don't know,
I think it's great. I appreciate that they left it like explain it away as like this one-time thing. This little girl had a crazy night, did a crazy thing, and has been dealing with it for a year. I'm fine with that as an explanation. You know what I mean? It wasn't one of those things where they were like, oh no, now she has these nightmares that she's becoming Michael Myers, and none of that happened. She thinks she stabbed her mom because she has these nightmares,
I was real
but she
worried
never
that was
did.
what they were doing at first, and I got scared.
No,
I was
like they didn't change it. They didn't erase anything. All they did was create a different aftermath than maybe we thought.
Yeah.
But,
well, and this franchise has a knack for ruining the ending of the last movie.
Oh boy, we'll get to that.
But in a way that almost makes you go, fine, you know, because this is what I say. I thought 4 was an absolutely perfect ending, and 5 obliterated it. However, like you said, it did it in a way that made sense, and let the rest of 5 happen. Some of it was dumb.
That's also
like Michael almost exploding and then falling asleep for a year. That part's dumb.
That's super dumb.
But the girl part, like you said, like I don't like the idea that the ending of 4 got retconned and didn't happen now because of how much I loved it. However, if you're going to make 5, that's fine.
Well, but it did happen.
Okay, I like it where she murdered the thing and is evil incarnate now.
Okay,
that's the part I like.
So do you want 5 to be the little girl running around killing people?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to see that.
Or you know, I mean, I don't want her to be 6.
You know,
it can be 15 years later.
If she's evil incarnate, I can take a little girl.
Again,
bottom line.
Like I would like it to be 15 years later, like the first one was. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I would like to see the whole thing. I don't even necessarily know if that's the best way for I don't know if that's the movie I wanted to see. That's the way I wanted to leave that story.
It's weird. It's weird. I'm just surprised to see you champion the Me Too Michael Myers.
Why?
Because you're not the Me Too guy.
Aren't I?
Are you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like not to a crazy level, but
This is a weird conversation.
yeah.
This is not where
This
this is
for
not
this-
why
yeah.
this is not why I expected you to have felt like the like we needed Jamie to become the murderer now.
Okay. Well, as I said, that's what I really liked the dichotomy of this thing has just passed on and now it's happening again.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And even if it was, I could have totally bought a 15-year time jump that still had Michael Myers in it and this girl as some sort of weird tandem.
That's too many.
Or anything.
That's too
That's too many.
Well, we'll get to that too. Because is it?
many. Yes.
88 to will be 2003. So we get a 30-year time jump with we get an overall 40-year time jump with a Michael Myers at one point.
Yep.
There's never two of them.
No.
Two Michael Myers
two
is
is
too
the
many.
weird part.
Yes,
Okay.
two Michael
Okay.
Myers is too
Okay.
many.
Well, even that we can actually expand that discussion when we get into the 6, I think it is,
Okay.
because that was when we get into some of the what could have been behind the scenes.
Okay.
But let's talk about 5 first.
Let's talk about 5.
So yeah,
I like 5.
Was it 4 or 5 specifically? It was definitely somewhere in these movies, right? Where like Michael Myers was killing people by just straight sticking his fingers through people's heads.
I think that was 6.
that was the next one.
Yeah.
No, that was 4. He killed that dude. That's how he killed one of the ambulance drivers. He just grabbed him and
Because I felt like he
Okay,
was
well then
so
I have
his-
a much
So I
important-
I felt like his strength had definitely been upped for these movies because all of a sudden he
Well,
could
he
just
was
straight jab.
always gorilla strong. Though.
Well, he was always strong, but we never saw him just straight poke his thumbs through people's skulls
Yeah.
before.
I mean, okay, like maybe not quite that direct, but like he did take 5 bullets and
So-
get up and walk
Right.
around. And was it 4?
so 4
Was it
4
when
he
he
goes
stabbed that girl with a shotgun?
That was this one, I think, right? 5 is the one where he
I
stabbed.
thought
No,
it was
that was 4.
That was 4.
That was
anything you like
'Cause it was the
good
girl-
happens in 4.
You know, we
Okay.
we totally glossed over that guy.
Well,
I
hold
wanna-
on. We'll go back to that guy.
Okay.
Because we still need to talk about 4 apparently. But 4 is where he goes full Terminator because there's the one scene where they show up at the police station and the whole police station is just wrecked and like 4 or 5 cops are dead, all murdered just by Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So like 4 he's pretty
Oh,
strong.
yeah, 'cause that's
He's
when,
like
like-
full Terminator at
Because
that
that's
point.
one of those cop moments where like the chief has all these cops doing all this stuff, and at one point one of them's like, "Is this really necessary?" And he's like, "If you'd seen that police station,"
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah,
one of those
well, they
moments
keep
where
trying
again,
to call
like,
back.
everyone appreciates the gravity of Michael Myers,
Right.
which is so cool.
Yeah.
But 4's also got that guy. Are we to that point yet?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the boyfriend in 4 is such a trip because the stepsister or whatever she is dating some guy and they're supposed to go out on Halloween night and she ends up canceling it 'cause she's got to watch the little girl. Well, this dude immediately just hooks up with like his coworker.
Yeah.
And as the main girl is taking her little sister trick or treating, they go to this girl's house. She opens the door, and that dude's just in the background.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments where you're like, ah, God, what a crappy dude, you know? And he sees his girlfriend out there and is like, oh, wait, I can explain. He goes running after her, and his explanation is totally just, well, you canceled our date.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, wait,
Yeah.
that's the best you've got, you know? And I actually kind of hate you, Jaron, for...
So I was making the argument,
Yeah.
or I was making the observation that with the Halloweens, you can tell the good ones from the bad ones because the good ones do a really good job of setting up people that you don't mind when they get murdered.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about that as kind of a horror trope where
Yeah.
they set up the guy like, oh, I can't wait to see this guy get murdered.
Yeah.
In 5, the guy with the car. He is such a douchebag.
Yeah.
You are just like, Michael cannot kill him fast enough.
Yep. They got the car.
In 2, they have the New York EMT, which is weird. He's clearly he's from New York, but he's
Right.
like this EMT in Haddonfield, Illinois, whatever. But like, can't wait for that guy to get murdered. He's just so smarmy and douchey. You're like, I can't wait for this dude. The good ones are a lot more subtle, and they set these guys up where you're kind of like, oh, this guy's kind of a tool. I don't mind when he dies, but they're not. It's not so obvious. This is one of those guys. Because he's, I mean, yeah, it's crappy that he, kind of just went up, but I mean, he's 17. Like, that's what,
right.
And that's what made me hate
kid,
you.
Yeah.
Because I was totally referencing this guy as one of those guys you can't wait to see him dead.
Yeah.
Because man, what a turd, And Jaren's like, hey, he's just 17-year-old kid. I'm like, yeah, oh, God, yeah. Like, that plays.
Well, yeah, and you can
still totally douchey, and you still want him to die.
Exactly,
but
it feels organic.
Yeah.
In the first one, when the girl and her boyfriend show up, and they're being weird and kind of douchey, and not overly so, but to the point where you're kind of like, they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not like, ugh, I cannot wait for these two douchebags to get murdered.
Right.
Just like where they show up and they're being dirty and just, promiscuous and whatever else they're being, and you're just like, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
They're vile enough where you're fine when it happens, but you're not like itching for it.
Right. So that's 4. So we're back to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the car guy, man, this dude with his Camaro.
Yeah.
They just make him. He's worse than Teddy. In the Fridays.
In the Fridays.
In the Fridays, he is.
Is that from the Friday reboot?
That's
the dude that liked the vintage porn.
Yeah.
The
dude that Danny hated so much.
Yeah.
This guy is worse than that.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say he's like a greaser. Like he's not the Fonz, but he watched a little too much Happy Days in like '88.
Right.
Whenever this
exactly.
movie was, like, he's totally out of time and he's just a complete douche. And Michael rake faces him.
I was gonna say my favorite part about that though is Michael just made sure to straight scratch up his car in front of him first.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like he was like messing with him.
Which is what I love so much about that because Michael Myers is a cognizant, like he knows what he's doing.
He doesn't troll people like Jason does, but he definitely he did.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was gonna say you don't see it very often with him. Usually he just goes straight for the stabby.
Yeah.
But in this case, well, he gave us what we wanted. Like that dude loved his car, and we got to see that dude's car get messed up in front of him right before he died.
Yep.
It was awesome.
So 5.
So the movie as a whole, like they really play up still on the psychic link between Jamie and Michael.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think they even amped it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely amped up in this one.
I'm not a huge fan of 5. I'm fine with 5. I would put it on a level of 2.
I didn't like it as much as 4
because I feel like I like it way less than you guys. But I like 2 way more than you guys. So.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of put them on that similar level. Like it's an okay installment. Nothing impressed me. My problems with 5 are I hated the beginning, I hated the end, which we'll get to shortly, and nothing in the middle brought it up enough to overlap those. Like the middle's fine, but even the middle it's kind of convoluted. I don't mind the psychic link stuff by any means. That continues to go on through there, but like I don't even know who the main character in 5 was. That seemed to almost jump around a little bit. Like obviously the girl, like the little girl,
Jamie. Yeah, it's Jamie.
But they've got the girl that almost gets killed by Michael when she thinks he's the car guy that's already dead.
Right.
Like she's kind of the main character for like a half an hour.
Yeah, I know. I like how we
Loomis
switched
is kind of the main character when he's around, and the little girl is obviously the focal point, but she's too young to carry that. Like, there's always the older one that carries the weight, and there's no real focus on that one.
Yeah.
And then again, it gets to the end, and then they start adding in the Man in Black.
The Man in Black. That's what I was going to bring up. Well, I do think it's funny you brought up because like they totally switched from Rachel to Tina somewhere in here. All of a sudden, Tina's the one that's like the
because they kill Rachel and
they
like
murder
the first
right. But like then this like Tina was basically the same character. Like
she started off as like the best friend from 1 that gets killed pretty quick, like the cop's daughter that gets killed in the car or whatever. Like she started off as that character, and then Tina gets murdered,
Rachel.
and then Rachel gets murdered, and then Tina almost gets murdered, and then sort of becomes Rachel. It never seemed focused, I guess, to me.
You know, I get that. I wonder, and had I done some research, I could answer this a little more definitively. But the first Nightmare does that and pulls it off kind of effectively. And I wonder if they weren't trying to maybe get a little bit of that feel, because the first Nightmare totally starts setting up one girl who is having the nightmares and telling people about Freddy, and you feel like she's the main character, and then she gets super murdered, and it switches over to Heather Langenkamp, who is, can't remember her name in the series, but Heather Langenkamp. So, like, you know, it kind of does that bounce where it's like, oh, here's your main character, no, dead. Okay. You know what I mean?
So like they were trying to do the transition thing.
I kind of wonder if they were, because they do it again. You know what I mean? Because they totally they set Rachel up. Well, Rachel comes in and you expect it to be Rachel because she was in 4.
Yeah.
And then they murder her.
That's another horror movie trope.
And then it bounces to,
having your main character show up in the next movie and dying right away.
Yeah. And then it bounces to Tina for a little bit, but then Tina dies at the end.
Yeah.
You know, and then we get an extended segment where it's just Jamie, the little girl.
And the Man in Black.
And the Man in Black
just randomly shows up a couple times throughout the movie with no explanation whatsoever.
He's just in the background with cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, and you never really see him, and there's nothing more to it for those first few scenes.
Other than when we get to the very end, where the Man in Black basically busts Michael out of jail. It looks like kills all the cops and
at the end of this one, they don't kill Michael, they actually capture him. With like 1,000 cops.
And
they've got him in jail, and they're going to transport him somewhere.
After Loomis beats him to death with a board.
Oh that's right.
Oh man, he got him good.
We've shot him, we've dynamited him, we've hit him with cars. All along, his weakness was the 2x4.
Right.
Should have had.
They'll build a board.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah, they'll build a board with
bigger board and bigger nails.
Yeah, they'll build a board with a nail so big it destroys them all.
Thank you, Treehouse of Horror. So the Man in Black comes in, kills everybody, and
it was just weird.
So the movie ends like basically like Michael Myers is in jail, and Jamie sees him. Jamie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I get the names mixed up. Jamie sees him and then like goes to leave, and then like there's mayhem, and they go back into the jail and they show his cell, and he's gone, and all of the cops everywhere are dead. And
there's like an explosion, right?
Yeah, like there's a lot of fire.
Yeah.
And it was just weird and confusing.
Yeah.
And you can tell.
And I made the joke to you when we were watching it, because they showed that guy a couple of times, and I don't think we were calling him the Man in Black yet because we hadn't looked anything up, so I was just calling him Cowboy Guy.
Yeah.
I was like, it's going to be great when we get to the end, and Cowboy Guy's just nothing. And then we get to the end, and like he wasn't exactly nothing, like he did the jailbreak thing, but they never explained any bit of it, and then the credits started rolling, and I was like, what? Like, I was kidding.
Yeah.
He could have been something.
Yeah. Well, you could tell it was one of those things that they threw in there that they were like, we're going to set this up so that we don't know where this is going yet, but at least we'll have something to pick up when we come back with these movies.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing, because when I read about the behind-the-scenes stuff, like it was that to the 10th degree.
Yeah.
Because they had started shooting this movie without even having a fully completed script, and halfway through the process, they were trying to tie up some loose ends, and so they threw in this Man in Black character to try to tie up those loose ends, and instead just created 20 more. But when this movie finished shooting and was over and released into cinemas, I don't think they still knew who he was.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no real plan. And they had some really interesting ideas, which, as we referenced earlier, one of their ideas they had going into 6 was that the Man in Black would have been like Michael Myers' brother. And so in 6, there would have been 2 of them running around, which I think could have been. I mean, again, if you execute it properly, could have been cool.
Because the same actor actually portrayed the Man in Black as Michael Myers. Yeah, I looked that up.
Because they didn't know what it was or who he was, so they just had somebody similar do it.
Yeah.
Also, we haven't really referenced this at all, but they reference Michael Myers as the Shape a lot, like when you start reading into it. Which I guess
what he's
is
credited
what he was,
as in the movie. I don't think they mentioned it on screen until the newest one.
Exactly, yeah. When I started doing reading on some of the other ones is when they refer to him, but he starts being referred to that as a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess like in the original script, that's what John Carpenter referenced him as, is just the Shape, because that's all he was in that movie. But that's kind of like you said, they had the same guy play them both because they're like, well, they're the same shape. And so that way, whatever we do with him, we've got that option there. And another idea they had for, I guess it would have been 6, going into it, was to, like, after they captured Michael, to turn him into basically some like a sympathetic Frankenstein style character for the next movie, and to make Dr. Loomis, who had just spent 4 or 5 movies trying to kill him, become his protector or his advocate against like the townspeople or whatever it would have been right there. Like, so they had some really interesting concepts going into 6, and then they made 6.
Yeah. 6 is terrible.
Yeah, 6 is not good.
I dislike 6 a lot. So
Same
6
here.
It introduces the world to Paul Rudd. Also, he had credits before this, but in the credits of this, it says introducing Paul Rudd. So I'll let him.
Well, he made this before Clueless, but Clueless came out before this came out.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
when they made it, they thought they were introducing him to Paul Rudd. I don't like anything about this movie. I don't know what to say. So this movie,
let's just skim through this one because it is so dumb.
Yeah.
So this is one of those instances, and I always hate this, and I complain about this in a lot of things. This is where they try to give a reason for the bad guy to be the way he is. They try to create some sort of ridiculous origin story, and that never works.
Yeah.
That never works for a character, especially when the whole reason the character is cool is the little bit of mystique that the character has.
Right.
And when you try to explain that away with demons and curses and he's the devil basically incarnate, and we're trying to harness that and make an even more evil person by birthing this baby from a grown-up Jamie now. Like, the whole thing is so dumb. It's
the premise of this movie starts off with Jamie. It starts off with Jamie, but we're 6 years in real time into the future. I don't remember how old Jamie was.
I was going to say, it super doesn't make sense with her age.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, even in the script, I think she's only like 17.
Yeah.
So it's super, like, the beginning's real creepy on a bunch of levels that aren't, like, fully stated, but are heavily implied.
Yeah. So the
are
man,
not acceptable.
Yeah. The cult of the Thorn, I think is what they're called, has kidnapped. They're run by the Man in Black. They rescued Michael and kidnapped her and have been holding her.
They took him out of prison, and so he's just been with them for like 6 years.
Right.
They've kidnapped Jamie. At the beginning of the movie, Jamie is giving birth to this baby that, again, I don't remember if they ever state her age in the movie, but I think she's like 17, and I think that's at least like concept-wise where she's standing.
Right.
Also, they don't state, but heavily insinuate that this is Michael's baby.
Yes.
So there's weird incest stuff going on.
Niece. Yeah.
There's underage childbirth going on, and that's where we start this movie.
There's no way any of that was consensual. Like,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems with this. I will also point out, this is another 6-year jump, real time, like I said. So this is 89 to 95. So this is our first 90s Michael Myers. This feels real 90s.
Yeah.
On all the normal levels and all the terrible levels. This is also, I believe, the first one when Dimension Films took over, which is, sort of its own thing. So they're basically like trying, in many ways, they're trying to make a Halloween movie, and in many ways, they're trying to rebrand it under their own sort of style. And, as somebody who lived through it and goes back and rewatches it now, you don't always remember it quite this way. But man, the mid-90s were wild.
Dude, one of the things I hate about this is how, like, they basically eliminate the iconic theme song for him.
Yes.
And every time he's marching around on a killing spree, there's just random generic heavy metal music playing. And it's so...
It sounds very 90s and very terrible.
It's
and
awful.
Very Dimension.
And it just seems generic. It feels very generic.
And we talked about that when we were watching, because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't remember if they played the original in the beginning anywhere at all just to get it in there. But every scene that you're watching going... that music should be playing.
Yeah.
Something that's just assaulting your ears is playing instead.
Yes. And it's
not setting up any tension or doing anything
Always
good.
felt way out of place and real weird and just took away from the mood of the movie and just...
And I can't give you a proper description of what the movie was exactly going for because, I mean, again, I sort of dropped out of this movie pretty early as far as that goes because of how awkward the whole thing is. But basically, they're trying to continue the line of evil. And so this baby is supposed to be like Michael was almost perfect evil, and this baby is supposed to be evil perfected. Yeah. Except Jamie escapes, and then Michael goes out on the hunt for her. She
hides the baby in a bathroom, and then Michael kills her on a farm.
Yeah. And then Paul Rudd finds the baby. Yeah. Presumably 10 minutes later, but it felt like 5 days later. Yeah. Like that baby probably shouldn't have survived in a trash can in a bathroom for as long as it seemed to have.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Paul Rudd is playing Tommy Doyle. Yeah. Who was the kid that Jamie Lee Curtis was babysitting in the first movie. Yeah. That's really the only thing.
Turned into a super creep now, also.
Right. That's really the only thing that's interesting about this movie to me. All this stuff with the cult is just bad. The only thing that's interesting, the only thing I do kind of like about that is by the time they get to the end, Michael just murders all the cult members.
Yeah. I mean, I do like that because
I like that
because all of a sudden he just gets all Michael Myers and doesn't care about what's going on here.
Right.
Like, I super don't care about your dumb cult. I'm just gonna kill all of you right now.
Yeah. Well, they have the moment where the guy's trying to like anoint him or give him orders or something, and Michael's just like, "Nah, how about you're dead? And all your friends too."
Yeah.
And the only thing I don't know how that sits with, like, I love that part because obviously and awesome, and that's great. Especially at the end of this terrible movie. Yeah. I can't tell if it sits higher or lower with me that it's been like 6 years that he's just been hanging out with these dudes.
Yeah, it's super
because on the one hand that makes it way dumber, but on the other hand it makes it way funnier.
Yeah. The only thing I accept with that is kind of the idea that Michael activates at Halloween. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like they picked him up after
a bunch of Halloweens though.
Well, yeah, I mean. Sometimes he does that though, you know. There's not. I guess not necessarily that he activates every Halloween as much as there's not. Part of his mystique is like, we don't know when this is going to happen. Yep. Sometimes you know
it's his time to shine.
Right.
Yeah. So, the credits I will give this movie solely revolve around.
Well, hold on. I also want to point out how dumb it is that they do the same ending, because in part 5, Loomis has the tranquilizers and he shoots him up with the tranquilizers, then beats him with a 2x4. In this one, they have the tranquilizers and shoot him up with the tranquilizers, and then Paul Rudd beats him with a pipe.
Yep.
So they didn't even bother to come up with a different ending.
How did they even leave Michael in this one?
So they shoot him up and beat him unconscious, and then they go outside and Paul Rudd and the chick that got swept up into all this and the baby
they're Strodes.
Yeah, they're Strodes. They're like cousins.
Yeah.
They get put in the they jump in the van.
They jump in the van, they go to leave, and they ask
Loomis to come with them,
and
but he totally Van Helsings them.
Yeah.
He's like,
yes, thank you for that.
He's like, I got some stuff I got to take care of. You guys go ahead. And so they drive off, and then they do that. They do the thing where we pan down to where Michael should have been. I think the mask is just laying there,
The mask is laying there,
and then you hear...
they totally insinuate Loomis dies.
Yeah, that you hear Michael kill him off screen. Yeah.
And then they do the dedicated to Donald Pleasance because he had passed away. Was it during filming?
Yeah, I think
he passed away.
Obviously filmed everything.
He didn't film everything. He had filmed everything, and this was one of those that had so many rewrites and so many reshoots. It was a different movie when he had filmed everything, and he died before they started doing reshoots.
Okay.
So all that they had from him, they tried to squeeze in to make it fit with all the reshoots because we got to get some Donald Pleasance out of all this.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why this movie is so terrible and feels so disjointed.
And that's
part
the thing.
of.
Like
It's just a bad movie.
The credits I will give to the movie have nothing to do with the movie itself. It's a terrible movie. It gets a little bit of honorable mention, I guess, in my mind because I really like Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
And I didn't like him in this movie per se.
He's not good.
No, he's
Nobody's
not.
good in this movie.
But also, like,
Donald Pleasance.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Anytime you go back to anybody's first thing,
Yeah. Well,
like, no, they're not good. But you can see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
about to disprove your point.
fair enough. That's fine. You
Go
made
ahead.
me lose my point.
Sorry.
Oh, no. Okay, got it.
Yep.
I'll give it some credit just because Paul Rudd's in it, and I
Yeah.
enjoy Paul Rudd. I will give it credit because I really like Donald Pleasance in this role. And unfortunately, his last outing was in a terrible movie.
Yeah.
But he's still Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of, from my perspective, I have to look at that. I'll never watch 6 on purpose. I don't enjoy 6. But I will look back at 6 as Donald Pleasance's last ride.
Yeah.
And it'll hold that place.
Yeah.
Now, the best 2 things I can say about this movie are it gave me a new guy I really liked and exited an old guy I really liked. Neither of those points have anything to do with the actual movie.
Right.
You know, it could have been those guys eating breakfast for a half an hour and would have been the same thing right there. But there's nothing else I can find that's redeemable about this film.
Man, they totally just wrecked Jamie's character arc, and I hate that. Because I really liked Jamie as a character, and 4 especially, but, you know,
And
in 4 and 5.
that little girl was a great actress.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
Yeah, and then
She's
just
in-
what they
she's in the
did.
Rob Zombie ones.
And then this is, I mean, we kind of
We
talked.
won't hold that against her.
No.
We kind of talked about the trope earlier about killing off the previous movie's main character right away. And I don't know, I really hated that about this.
Yeah.
Like, specifically, they made us like that character so much, and they really set that character up for some pretty awesome things. And then just to turn her into a captured rape victim who gives birth and then murdered in the first 20 minutes of the movie, that sucked.
Yeah.
And it just really set the pace for, like, the rest of this awful movie.
Yeah.
Like,
And what's funny too is like even her death scene, I feel like her death was like it ratcheted up the gruesome a little bit from what you're kind of accustomed to these movies. But like it would have been a pretty cool death scene for a less important character in a better movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as it played here, it just all felt wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
But now we get to talk about Halloween H2O.
H2O. Stupid name. But really great movie.
I don't have a problem
I
with the name.
I like the
No.
name.
I've heard that. I've
like-
heard other people say
Water.
Well, but it's
Halloween
not. But it's not a
water.
water reference. It's a 20-year reference.
I know, but water.
that. You almost, you almost feel like maybe they didn't realize.
Should we call it H20? Because that's what it actually is. That's not an O. That's a zero.
Yeah,
If you do that,
H20.
I'll accept. Yeah,
H20.
I
don't
love
like-
H20.
I don't like 20. I like H20 fine though.
Well, because
I'm
it's
fine with
called
H20.
Halloween H2O 20 years later. Okay, that's the full name of the movie. Why do we? Okay, so we got Halloween H2O 20 years later. So H2O is like the abbreviation of Halloween and 20, but
Yep.
like this title is like stating the same thing 3 times over. It's a dumb name for a movie. Okay, I don't like it
For
but,
sure.
But the movie's great.
movie's great.
I look at it as one of those like I never called the Mighty Ducks 2 D2.
D2, the Mighty Ducks.
but
Yeah.
the box sure did.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
D2.
Yep, that's the thing.
So, yeah, this is
so we
98.
get the return of Jamie Lee Curtis for Halloween H2O.
So we're starting a brand new timeline
Yes.
now because
Yep.
this is basically a sequel to 2.
Correct.
Yep.
And Jamie isn't a thing.
Jamie
but
never existed.
she's got a son now. Like
Jamie
Laurie
Lee Curtis
Strode's
does,
got
yeah.
Laurie
Laurie Strode's got a
Strode
son,
has a son, not a daughter named Jamie.
Which is funny because they kept the concept of her dying in the car crash, but in this movie she faked her death.
Yeah, well they didn't.
But then they erased the... So it's like the only reason to have her fake her death in a car crash is to reference the other movies where they say she died in a car crash.
Yeah.
Except they also, like, they don't complete that by her having a daughter. They
Yeah.
erased that part of it.
Yeah.
So they could have done anything here, but it's kind of like, it's almost like an Easter egg it plays like, you know?
Right. I've always just assumed that they just left that part out. I assume that this is still a sequel to 6.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
You know, I don't know when to start talking about stuff like this. I've been trying to hold it for the end, but the timelines the timelines of this franchise are going to make our episode of the Freak Easy go an extra 40 when we're done with all this stuff. You know?
The timelines are nuts. Well, because it says on the plot that Michael Meyers has been missing for 20 years.
Yep.
Since the explosion at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. So there has been no Michael Myers.
No, they definitely, I mean, they
two.
definitely want it to be a sequel to part 2.
Yeah. They're ignoring all
it's
the
for
other
sure
stuff.
intended as that.
Yeah.
So 3 never happened.
Yeah.
And 4
never happened in any of it.
But it does say that Lori faked her death to avoid Michael and is living under an assumed name.
Right.
Having a career as the headmistress of Hillcrest Academy. So they're out in California now,
She's
right?
got 2 failed marriages and a son.
Yep.
They're in California and hiding.
Played by Josh Hartnett in his first outing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what
he does really good. John.
Well, I know they almost.
So I guess it's just Paul Rudd who sucks in his early movies.
So, like LL Cool J's in this movie too.
LL
He's like
Cool
the
J.
security guard or whatever.
Michelle Williams is in this.
Yeah.
Jodie Lynn O'Keefe is in this. There's a bunch of people in this movie.
Uh-huh.
The guy who's Lori's boyfriend is recognizable. I can't remember where from or tell you his name, but I've seen that dude.
Alan Arkin?
Adam Arkin.
Adam Arkin. Okay.
Adam Arkin.
What else is Adam Arkin from? Because Adam Arkin is not Alan Arkin.
That
dude
right.
went in MASH.
Adam Arkin.
He's been in so much.
Adam Arkin.
Stuff.
Adam Arkin was in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh yeah.
I really like to pretend that he's that same character, and when he escapes in spoiler alert, when he escapes in Sons of Anarchy, he comes here because he totally shoots LL Cool J for no reason, and then that way that dude doesn't just escape, he gets murdered by Michael Myers. Retcon that FX. That's what happens. Just so you guys
Can we
know.
get a reference of that in that Mayans show somewhere?
I hope so. Did you guys hear about that crazy stuff at Hillcrest Academy? La Familia.
Okay. How does... So Michael finds out that she's in California at some point. Where's he at?
He goes to Loomis's house.
Yeah, that's right.
Loomis has died.
Loomis has died.
He goes to Loomis's place. Loomis's nurse or whatever has all his files.
Yeah.
So it's that same nurse. It's the nurse with a cigarette.
What nurse?
The one that was with her.
At the beginning of 1?
She's the one at the beginning of 1. She's the same lady who shows up to take him away in 2. She's the one who picks him up. Yeah, and this is her at the beginning of H2O that gets murdered with not Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah.
Yeah, JGL's totally in this movie too.
Yep.
Yeah, for a minute.
Yep. Yeah. He dies before he gets his credit.
Skate through the face.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I love it. He's dead when they start running the credits for the movie, and they're like, "And with Joseph Gordon-Levitt." Or was.
I didn't introduce him because I think he was already on Third Rock from the Sun by then. But So Michael goes to Loomis's place, kills Loomis. Loomis is already dead. Kills his nurse. Finds the files. That's how he discovers where Lori is.
Yep.
So it goes to get Lori in California.
Yep. I wonder how many people he killed on the way, all the way out to California from Illinois.
Well, I don't think very many.
He doesn't kill the girl and her mom in the
Exactly.
That's right.
He just steals her car.
And this is kind of like one of my introductory stories to the franchise because this was
weird 100-year-old SUV truck.
Yeah.
What is up with that?
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah, just a mom and her daughter in their Model T on the way cross country. But this was my introduction to the franchise, and I looked at Michael Myers as just a Jason. I had no idea what the story was. He was just some weird hulking monster. And so my introduction to Michael Myers after the first killing at the beginning are kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then he wanders upon this mother and daughter at a rest stop, and instead of ruthlessly murdering them, he leaves them peacefully be and just steals their car. I thought that was the dumbest, most ridiculous thing I had ever seen. And it sort of took me out of this movie for a little bit when I was watching it the first time. Now, it's funny going back and watching the whole franchise and then watching this because when Michael doesn't necessarily murder everyone he comes across, I'm okay with that. And when he randomly steals a car, well, that's just par for the course.
Yeah.
At this point,
Right.
But when you think you're watching Jason and that happens, you're like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
And then when you watch all these other movies, you're like, all right, that all makes sense.
Yeah.
He's
track's
been
fine.
doing that since the beginning.
Track's fine.
Stealing cars and selectively killing.
So, like, Laurie's character is, like, overprotective. Obviously, she's kind of playing that
Yep.
nervousness, and she's scared of Jason. She's still scared of Michael Myers all these years later and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like the little subplot that they're setting up. And like I don't know, like I almost feel like all the stuff with the kids isn't as important, because once we get to like that big moment in the movie, it's like none of that stuff even matters anymore.
Which I thought was kind of a cool way the movie played, though, because it all sets itself up like your standard slasher flick with all these teen characters that are in your standard slasher flick. And then when it gets to the action, it quickly reverts to Michael versus Laurie. And goes right back to what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, and having seen it the first time, not knowing any of that stuff, I got all the slasher things I wanted.
Yeah.
Coming into the franchise,
Yeah.
it played like a normal slasher in the way I wanted it to, and I enjoyed all that stuff. And then rewatching it again after watching the entire franchise, like in a series here, it plays on a whole totally different level and works even better.
Yeah.
So that's a well-crafted movie as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I'm just gonna skip right to that stuff because
go for it.
that moment where she shuts that door on him as he's coming up to the house, and they both see each other for the first time through that window. That moment, dude, I felt that moment. Like, I was so excited when that happened that I was just like, oh, this whole movie just changed. You know what I mean? And, like, you just felt it turn. And, like you were saying, man, it really takes you back. Like, all of a sudden, you're watching Halloween again. And you're seeing, like, this, we got Laurie versus Michael again. And it was so epic. Like, I just love that scene so much. And then what the whole rest of this movie becomes, because now it's her trying to survive him. And we get that great scene, too, because somebody asks who that was. Like, who is that? And she's like, my brother. You're like, oh, this is so great.
Awesome.
It's so great, yeah.
And I can really, like, I can boil this whole franchise down to, like, 3, not even scenes, like, shots.
Yeah.
And this is the second one now.
Yeah.
And it's not as iconic or cool as Michael coming out of that closet in 1, but it is like the successor to that moment. You know what I mean? And it is like you said, it's not even the scene or how it's playing. It is just that moment with that door between them, that little porthole, that round window in the middle where they're face to face for the first time in 20 years. Like, I am talking about it and getting chills right now.
It was so well done. I loved it. I thought it was so fantastic. And then we spend the rest of this movie with Laurie trying to survive again. But she's a little more
until she decides to try and kill him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Like, this time, this is where
she's trying to get her son out of there. She's trying to survive her son.
Yeah, she's surviving to protect him.
Yeah, and then the instant he's safe, she's like, "Give me this axe. Let's go."
She goes all Loomis.
It's awesome.
She locks that door.
Yeah. Well, this is where we get the Laurie that I had always expected to see too. So that was a little exciting for me, because I'm like, all right, here we go. Now we're really getting like the fight. Like, we're getting the fight in Laurie now, and that's awesome.
And at this point, her her boyfriend has been murdered. LL Cool J has seemingly died, which was funny because Michael Myers didn't even get him at that point.
No, Adam Arkin shot.
Yeah. Just shot him.
Well, because he's like,
he's a racist. He's Adam Arkin, evil racist.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's what they were going for.
Well, that's
what he is. That's what he was in. That's the whole Sons of Anarchy thing. He was an evil racist in Sons of Anarchy.
Yep.
So when he escapes, he gets here. He's changed his name.
Sorry, I killed your joke.
It's all right.
My bad.
Made me explain it. Thanks. Yeah. Anyway,
I was going for a different joke.
Go ahead.
That's just overstepping. Anyway, so because Adam Arkin has been set up with this story, like, she does this reveal of who she really is, and where she came from, and he kind of blows it all off. It's like, well, that's ancient history, and then all of a sudden he's face to face with Michael Myers, and he starts freaking out. Yeah. So the next time he sees somebody coming around a corner, he plugs it 3 times or whatever. Except it turns out to be LL Cool J and not Michael Myers.
Yeah.
And so then he freaks out over the fact that he just killed the security guard and gets brutally murdered himself.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is really cool. because Michael, the simple. Most of the coolest kills in this franchise are fairly simple. Like, there's the outlandish ones I love. I absolutely adore that a girl got stabbed with a shotgun. Like, I keep saying it because it's hilarious to say.
Yeah.
It was also awesome to watch,
Yeah.
you know? But there's a lot of them that are just, I really like this kill. I mean, this was in my top tier of for the whole franchise. And it's just him getting this guy from the side, but he's doing that all-powerful lift-up. You know, like he's got him stabbed and he's just holding him up and waiting for him to die.
Yeah.
And then dropping him down. And it's just like, oh, God, it's so...
totally.
You know? But menacing.
Yeah.
We get the final showdown with Lori and Michael, and she ends up like stabbing him, and he falls off the balcony, and they think he's dead. And then, like, I love this too, because like the coroners and everybody show up, and the police and everything, and they load Michael into the coroner's truck, and Lori's just like, nope, and she steals the coroner's truck with Michael's body in it.
She knows what's coming.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she knows that that's not the end of him.
Yeah.
She's got to go finish him off or whatever. So she steals it, and of course he wakes up. I love that because he's in like that body bag.
Yep.
And like he does like the thing where like he gets up and tears through the body bag, and then like he's fighting her, and then this is because like she slams on the brakes, and then he goes flying through the windshield. It's amazing.
Then she hits him with the van.
Then she runs
over him with the van, and he's like a fence or something that he's like
a tree.
stuck in, right?
She hits him with the van
they go to
and
like
loses control, and he falls down the hill, and the van rolls after him.
Yeah.
And then he hits this tree, and then the van falls down and pins him against the tree.
Pins him on the tree.
And does she get ejected, or does she...
She falls out of the van at some point.
Yeah.
Because she comes walking up to him afterwards. He's pinned between ambulance and tree.
Yep.
Man, this is such a good scene right here, too. Oh, my God. Because he's pinned, and she's, like, face-to-face with him, and he's totally helpless at this point. And they do that thing where, like, he kind of reaches out his hands at her, and she starts to reach out to touch his hands. And you got that little bit of tension, like, oh, this bad idea.
It's like that brother-sister moment.
Yeah, you have that little bit of,
that
like...
relation moment.
Yep, she feels a little bit of sympathy.
One time that you can see him in the... sympathetic role.
Yeah.
You know?
Except you also know that you probably can't trust him, and so you kind of got that little bit of tension, like, don't do that, that's a bad idea, don't fall for it. And instead she just chops his head off with an axe. Oh my God. Amazing. It was amazing. If that was the end of the Halloween franchise, I'd have been totally good with that.
Well, again, the absolute perfect ending to this particular timeline of the franchise.
Yes,
you know?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, and again, that's the fun part about these movies, you can sort of make those decisions as you want, if you really want to. And as far as I'm concerned, that ends that story. You know?
As far as you're concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, H2O ranks up there with one of my favorites of the franchise.
Right.
And mostly just because of the last, half hour of the movie. But
4 and 2 are both really good, and they're made by their ends.
Yeah.
And then both of their ends get retconned into stupid. But I will accept both of their ends for what they are and love both of those movies with them. I think I like H2O a little more than 4 because I like the implications of where 4 could go. Doesn't, but could. I like H2O a little bit more because I feel like it completes the first one.
It felt like the finish to the Laurie Michael story, right? Like it felt like a proper end to the original storyline.
It ended what I started with at that point.
Yeah. So Resurrection starts and just takes a pee all over that.
All over it. Yeah, it totally. It totally 5-7.
I can't even tell you how mad I was.
Yeah.
When I started watching this movie and like Laurie, so like Laurie's in like a home or something now at the beginning of this movie, and like they've got her on psychotics or whatever, and they're like
antipsychotics
because they're like
it'd be weird if they put her on psychotics.
They're like
it'd be weird if they have psychotics.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, steer into the skid, right?
So apparently now she hasn't spoken since she killed Michael, and all she does is stare out the window.
Well, she didn't kill Michael.
But that's when we find out, so they're just recapping everything from the end of H2O, and we find out that, that wasn't Michael that she killed. That was some other random dude that was dressed up like Michael because Michael got away.
It was an EMT who showed up.
Yeah.
And the first EMT on site, when he came to check on Michael grabbed him knocked him out and switched costumes
Crushed
with
his
him.
trachea.
Crushed his yeah, that's right. Choked him and crushed his trachea and put his clothes on him and the mask on him.
He Hannibal Lectered him.
Right.
Or reverse Hannibal Lectered, I guess.
Yeah.
He was wearing the Michael mask.
Hannibal Lectered him. Thanks for reminding me of that.
So that happened, and that was a blow, and I was mad about that.
I will say, like, I was mad about the beginning of 5. I was mad about the beginning of 8 here. I will say, like, to your credit, like, just like you were saying with 5, they retcon it in a, like, man, for a retcon I hate, really masterfully done.
Yeah, they
you
don't.
know? And to your, I think, well, you go ahead and talk about the end of.
So the thing I'm gonna say, one, they planned it to be that way when they made that ending. The reason that movie ends that way is because Mustafa Akkad didn't want them to kill off Michael, so they created the ending of H2O so that it was a way, like they can't, they had these endings. Multiple endings where Laurie kills Michael, and he kept rejecting him because he didn't want Michael to die because he was going to make these things until he couldn't anymore.
Right.
And so when they pitched him that ending, they had come up with the retcon for it to where they were like, okay, but look, here's how he comes back, because what actually happened is this thing.
Yeah.
So the ending is the ending, but they pre-planned the way to undo it.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They did.
Okay.
So they didn't make they made an ending that fit the way they were going to undo it. Okay. They did not like make this awesome ending and then have to go, well, all right, how do we undo that? Yeah. Well, let's just make it done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But had they never made another one, it could have just been that awesome.
Right?
Ending.
Yeah.
So it worked on either level, I guess.
And when the crew talks about it, like, yeah, when we were making it, we just treated it like it was, the end for Michael, because that's what it was supposed to be, and whatever happens next happens next. But they had also already contracted Jamie Lee Curtis to make was already in for the next one.
Yeah,
like she had already agreed to do the next one, Resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
So like there was other plans behind it. Yeah, I think it's a great way to do these. So often. In horror movies, when you're resurrecting the bad guy, it's different than like an action movie because the hero survives, so we don't have to change the end of the last movie for the hero to face a new bad guy. Yeah, right. With horror movies, generally we kill the bad guy at the end or defeat him somehow, so we have to find a way to undefeat him. So it's you almost can't hold these bad retcons against, you know what I mean? Because if they don't have bad retcons, we don't have a new movie, you know what I mean? So or you have really weak endings to everything because he's got to escape at the last minute, you know what I mean? So it's kind of par for the course with horror movies,
and I'm totally into that and totally accepting of it. I just also like part of the other fun is you can choose your own conclusions, kind of, and so I can look at it and go I get it, and they did a good job of undoing it, but also, man, I really liked the way it was.
So here's the other thing I'm going to say. I wish that these were on good movies, because it's super easy to go, they changed the end of H2O. I love the end of H2O. H2O is such a good movie, and then they made this turd Resurrection that just completely undoes it. I wonder how it would play if
it was like a really good
Resurrection was a good movie.
Yeah. You're totally right.
Same thing with 5. 4 is so good and it's got such a strong ending, and then I like 5 for what it is. It's not 4
exactly,
but if it was 4 and they changed the way that they changed it and undid the ending for that one, it would play a lot better. So Resurrection is just an out-and-out turd. We get to Jamie.
They kill Laurie.
Yeah,
right
Jamie Lee Curtis
before
dies.
the credits even roll.
Yep. So she's in the house, and she's been faking the whole time, and she's not taking her medication, so she's just waiting.
She's waiting for Michael to show up,
right?
So
which
she
he
can
does.
Get him. Yep.
Which she does.
Which I did like that.
Yeah, and the whole idea was that she went crazy because she killed that guy who was like a father of 3 and wasn't Michael Meyers, and she went nuts because of that. But in reality.
In reality,
she's
she
just
was
been
baiting
holding
Michael
on,
to come.
Yeah, she's just waiting.
Yep.
Now, in the behind-the-scenes part, like you said, she had been contracted for another one, so she was going to do it. She couldn't get out of it, but by the time they were rolling the story out and she was seeing where the direction was going, and she just didn't want any part of it, so she basically said, like, I got to do this movie, but you guys got to kill me immediately because I don't want any part of this movie.
That's crazy.
Yep. So this movie underwent a lot of changes, a lot of rewrites. It's one of those. It's so bad. It's where you can start to feel.
It feels so early 2000s.
It is so.
ridiculous.
If they made a documentary about 2002, it would not capture the feeling of 2002 the way Resurrection captures the feeling of 2002. It's got, I mean, seriously, it's got Busta Rhymes in it, and Busta Rhymes was only famous for 1 year, and that was 2002.
Yeah.
And
he knows jujitsu.
Oh, I was gonna say, just sitting there doing karate to friggin' Michael Myers.
it's got.
I was like, what is happening here?
It's
Well,
got.
it's like they watched that boxing scene from Jason Takes Manhattan, and went, what if this was half a movie?
I was gonna say he just kept doing karate to Michael
Yeah.
Myers. Like, I was like, why is this still a thing? Like he should have died instantly when he tried that.
Well, but
why is he holding his own
he
against?
became like the good guy Michael Myers. Like he kept dying and then getting back up
I
and
know.
doing more karate.
Oh, it was so lame.
Yeah, it had Tyra Banks in it.
Kinda.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, Tyra Banks was kind of famous
Yeah.
Yeah.
in 2002.
Yeah.
A bunch of people in this movie were names or faces, and, like either at the time or sometime thereafter.
Yep.
It's got the kid from American Pie in it.
Yep.
It's got the main girl.
It's got the kid from American Pie playing the kid from American
Pretty much.
Pie.
Basically.
Pretty much.
Yep.
The main girl in the movie goes on to that David Spade sitcom Rules of Engagement, which is one of those, like, I watched all of that sitcom and still watched half of this movie going, why do I know her? I had to look it up. The funniest thing to me was Katie Sackhoff in this movie, who was famous from...
You mean not Brittany Murphy?
That's what I'm getting to. Actually, yes, I do specifically mean that.
Murphy.
Because she's mostly famous for like Battlestar Galactica, which I didn't watch a lot of, but she played a very, tough girl, Marine type character. She went on to be in like that Riddick movie. She's shown up in a few other more I think a lot of smaller stuff probably, but some more mainstream stuff. But she's always this like super gritty, again, like Marine's the best way I can describe her, but she's always that like hardcore female character.
She's like a tough chick.
Yep. And then watching her in this movie, where she's just Brittany Murphy, to the point where, like, no joke, like you said that, because the relation makes sense, I spent no less than a third of this movie thinking that was Brittany Murphy.
I can't believe Brittany Murphy is in this.
Well, but I kept looking at her going, why does she look so off? Like, she definitely looks...
How old was Brittany Murphy here?
Yeah. Like, man, that's definitely Brittany Murphy for sure, except also it's not... Like, is that Brittany Murphy's mom? But like,
how
older
long
sister?
ago was Clueless?
Yeah. Like, is this Stephanie Murphy?
Murphy.
What am I missing here? And then I went and looked it up, and I was like, Katie Sackhoff. Okay. Yeah. Totally different person playing a totally different role than she'll ever play again in her entire career.
It had, so it also had that early 90s understanding of computers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And television. That was when reality TV was becoming a thing.
Reality TV was
I feel like it
becoming-
captured that part okay.
Reality TV was becoming a thing. It was totally trying to. It was like, what if we had some of the Blair Witch in this movie? It was totally trying to do like not found footage, but like that first person camera thing because they were all fixed with first person cameras. Oh man, this movie was
because reality TV was becoming a thing, and then this movie came out, and you're like, it's like, oh, they're like filming a reality show, except in the movie, it's all nonsense and bullcrap and just made up for the cameras. Yeah. And you're like, oh, they're totally exposing reality TV. And here we are 20 years later, and people still buy that stuff.
Yep.
I don't get it.
Well, see, back then, people thought it was real. They were like, oh, reality TV, this is real. And then we figured out it's not real, but we don't care because it's still TV.
I was about to say, like, that's my point is We figured out it's not real. I think there's a whole bunch of people who haven't still.
Maybe.
That's the part I can't understand.
Maybe. Well, I guess they all need to watch
Yeah, if they just watch
Halloween Resurrection.
They'll give up on TV as a medium. And
So this movie is bad.
I don't even
this
know
movie is just like pure. After they kill Jamie Lee Curtis, this movie just becomes pure slasher tropes. You know, the kids that they send into this. So the idea is Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks are trying to start a website or something, Dangertainment, which is gonna send these kids with like personal cameras into haunted houses and stuff, and you know, whoever's doing interesting stuff will get the most views, and then everybody gets rich.
Yeah.
So it's got that early 2000s understanding of internet money.
Yep.
And and so then they do that, but the kids that they set up are like, none of the kids are even characters. They're just archetypes.
Yep.
You know, like more so than any. I mean, that's a slasher thing. I get it.
Yeah.
But these are, you know, there's like an art dude and a women's lit chick and the smart mouth chick and the girl next door and a black guy and the kid from American Pie.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
this is by far and away the laziest of these movies.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
Like even 3 was trying to do something, it just failed miserably.
Right.
This one wasn't even trying.
Right.
And it made me feel insecure. Because I remember seeing this in 2002 as my second Halloween movie and walking out going, that was fine.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again 2 days ago and felt really bad for the last 20 years of my life,
you know
not
what?
realizing how not fine this is.
If you think that Michael Myers is just the same thing as Jason and you watch this movie, that's exactly what you get.
Well, and if you watch it in 2002 and
the world looks like that.
Exactly.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Like if you've seen this entire franchise and seen what they built and everything, and then see what they do with this movie, like it's like
so
easily one of the worst movies that they did, just because they turn it into a simple Michael Myers walks around this house killing everybody for no reason at all.
So the other thing I will say,
just poorly put together.
Yeah. Well, it also is, because I had that memory of it too. Like, oh, it's fine, and it was a fine experience in a theater in 2002.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember watching it. Like I went to see it in the theater, and I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. That's cool. Well, okay.
Yeah.
If they can't all be H2O, you know, like for sure they can't all be H2O.
Yeah.
So having seen it, and then by the time I watched it, you know, before now, when I watched it when I was like, oh, Halloween, I'll watch Resurrection. Ugh, what? You know, like by the time I saw it on my couch at home in 2004, I was like, oh, what happened to this movie?
I hadn't seen it since theaters.
Either
in
vibe.
2002.
Yeah, that's the last time.
And that's the funny thing, how perception works for you sometimes. Yep. Because even watching it this time, I was a solid 3/4 of the way in before I went, yeah, this is terrible. Like I had it in my memory that this is fine, so I'm watching the whole movie through the lens like this is okay. And then at one point I was like, oh, God, nothing in this works.
You know, it happens for me early. I can tell you exactly the first time I watched it after seeing it in the theaters. I remember it was like, because the first kill Michael Myers has that isn't Jamie is that one camera guy, and he kills him with that tripod, and I always call it the Austin Powers kill.
Yeah,
because he's just totally like
you should
slowly advancing on this guy, and this guy's like,
you should call it the Mike Myers kill.
Mike Myers,
because that'll be more confusing.
The Mike Myers.
He stabs this dude.
Yeah. So Michael Myers, Mike Myers, that guy.
he just slowly, eventually stabs this dude in the neck. And I remember watching that and sitting on my couch with candles. You know, like I was trying to create like an atmosphere, like I'm gonna watch this horror movie, and like sitting on my couch watching that as he kills that guy, I'm like remembering everything else about this movie, and I'm like, this movie is terrible, isn't it? And then I sat there the rest of the time and go, yeah, this movie it just does not work.
And again, like I didn't have the memory of the rest of it going anywhere. But even that scene, I was like, this is dumb. But like, I dug the Tyra Banks
kill.
No, was that her name?
Yes.
It was? Okay, sorry.
You dug the Tyra Banks. I just don't know what you're going to say.
She's
because
watching
she's
like
terrible.
the monitors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then
yeah.
pulls away, and then there's like it going on in the background. Like I liked that motif there.
Yeah.
Even like not like super dug it, but I was like it made me fine with like this is a dumb kill, but I feel like they're going more for that part than they are the kill itself.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
totally.
fine. This is all working. Everything's going well. Everything's going smooth. All's well. And I think it was the part when they jumped at like when Busta Rhymes was walking around as Michael Myers and they caught him. And he gave that speech where he's like, "I'm just trying to make my money. You guys do what you got to do." And I'm like, "Oh God, what am I watching?"
Yeah, no. What's worse than that is the first time when he walks in as the fake Michael Myers, and the real Michael Myers walks up behind him, and he just tells the real Michael Myers to get out of here, and the real Michael Myers doesn't murder him; he just walks away. That's where you're like, "What? Yeah, what did I just watch?"
Yeah, man, I was so upset.
Well, here's my problem with that too. I would even be willing to accept because, as I've stated a few times, Michael Myers has those moments where he's just like, he reminds you that he's not this just killing juggernaut. Like he does this weird stuff just to do it.
Yeah.
Except that, like, he's
in this
like,
movie, he's just that killing juggernaut.
Well, like he's like, I left. Like they so blatantly throw it out there. I left the back door unlocked so you could go back to so and so. So get on back there. And Michael Myers just stops and kind of turns around and walks away. And then 8 seconds of movie later, he's just back in his basement where he's been eating rats, murdering that redheaded girl. And you don't see anything of the aftermath of that other part until way, way later when you've already forgotten about it and given up on the movie. Like, it didn't even work from a timeline perspective.
No.
Doesn't work from a timeline perspective. It didn't work anyway. I mean, like, because he is just a mindless killing machine in this movie. You know, he has no method, nothing like that. Just the next person he sees dies.
Yep.
And there's no reason he couldn't have just murdered Busta Rhymes right there and then gone out and murdered Tyra Banks to death.
No kidding there. Maybe he sensed an equal.
Busta
Rhymes.
Obviously, obviously,
who clearly proves that
Michael,
point later on.
Michael Myers,
karate him? I mean,
Michael Myers is like,
you
I
see
need
the
to
way he
level
kept-
up before I take on this.
Did you see the way Busta Rhymes kept getting murdered and then getting back up and karateing more?
Yeah,
Ugh, so bad.
it was. Oh man, I'm done. I'm over it.
Yeah,
I'm over it.
So that movie's terrible. We get another. They burn up Michael Myers. They burn down the house on him, and then cart him off to the morgue, and we get the most horror movie of horror movie endings, where he's burned up and dead and at the morgue, but then his eyes open, and we cut to the credits.
Yeah, the worst Halloween ending, and I've seen 3 and 5.
Oh jeez. Well, I guess that brings us to the last movie that we watched.
Yes,
This is the most recent movie,
the most recent one,
2018 Halloween,
which is
Same
a sequel to
the original,
the first Halloween.
Yep. So now we've got another branching timeline.
Yep.
Because now they've made a sequel to the first movie, and we're like 40 years later now.
Yeah. This first time I saw it was last night, so it hasn't settled completely because it's 24 hours old to me right now.
I watched it today.
Yeah.
So
this movie is a weird mix of a masterpiece and bad decisions. And I'm not sure how to reconcile all of it. You know?
Okay.
I really like it. I definitely like it.
I also really
sure.
liked it.
Yeah. I just disagree with some of the nuances of how they went into it that I feel like would have been real easy fixes.
Okay.
And I know, like, you've been, Jaren's been explaining some of these to me without spoiling anything since he saw it a year ago.
Yeah.
And, like, watching it with that, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. I would have had that realization to begin with myself. But, like, I can't back away from the things I disagree with. Yeah. But I can't not like this movie because it's really well done.
So I've been waiting a year to talk about this movie, so let me go.
Yeah,
go for it, man.
So this movie, this is a movie where they erase the entire franchise except for the first movie. So it is a direct sequel to Halloween.
Yep.
Jamie Lee Curtis is back. She is not Michael's sister in this one. She is just Laurie Strode, crazy lady, who has not been able to get over the one horrible night of her life, right? Michael Meyers has been in a asylum, not doing anything for 40 years except becoming an old man. And now we get to find out what happens 40 years later, right? Yeah. It starts with quick rundown. It starts with these two podcasters showing up to interview Michael. They do like a true crime podcast.
I like that because that's like a real thing.
Yeah,
for
yep.
Sure.
I'm down with that.
Yep.
They come in. They try to interview Michael. One of them has the mask from that night, so he was somehow able to get the 40-year-old mask out of an evidence locker somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When he pulls that out, all the other crazies at the asylum start to get agitated and react. Michael reacts but doesn't. He's holding himself very stoic through all. He's a rock. He doesn't move, doesn't talk, doesn't acknowledge them. They try to ask him some questions. They can't.
I do appreciate how they present Michael here because like they show you enough of him to where like he's clearly like just this old guy now, but he's also this hulking monster.
Yeah,
he's not like as we've talked, he's not like some weird disfigured.
He's not a zombie. He's not a hunchback.
Yeah,
he's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like they never show like an actual shot of his face. They just show you just enough, and that's kind of one of those like I really like about this franchise is when they give you those glimpses.
Yeah. The doctor. So there's a new doctor who was an understudy to Dr. Loomis. And he gives us some insight too. Some of those insights, things like the podcaster will ask, so he can't talk, and he's like, no, he can talk. Yeah. He just chooses not to.
Yeah.
And so little things like that kind of lead to this isn't mystical. He's not magic. He's something, but he's not magic.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like they walk that line. Like they blatantly tell you, no, he's not.
Right.
But then they just hold up a mask and an entire room full of inmates start to go bananas,
So the idea is that they're getting to Michael. These podcasters are getting to Michael here because he's about to be transferred to, I guess, an actual prison or at least
he's going to death row. I think they make some reference to him getting killed. I think. Soon.
Well, they make I don't think he's going to death row, but they make a reference that where he's going is not as cooperative and not as friend. They wouldn't be able to get in to see him there, type of thing. And I think they make the reference that he's going there until he dies, not that they're going there to be killed,
I took it as to die, but
it's the idea that the state has given up trying to figure him out and trying to save him or whatever, and now they're just going to go lock him up until he dies.
Yeah.
Of course, that goes south. Very quickly, something happens. We don't see when they move him. Well, we'll talk about Jamie. So after that, we meet Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode.
Yeah,
I always call her Jamie, but it's Laurie. And her daughter hates her. She's totally Sarah Connored up in she's got this house with all kinds of weapons, and she's been training to use the weapons and shooting guns, and she's got this compound back in the woods now.
Her body for 40 years, the machete fighter, not brother.
Right.
Yeah.
The podcasters come to see her. She doesn't really tell them anything, and not that there's much to tell at that point.
Time out. Quick aside. We got to get into true crime podcasting.
Okay.
Because they straight up roll up to her house and they're like, we'll give you $3,000 to talk to us for 20 minutes. They got to be making bank off that podcast.
Yeah, what?
That's paying way better than this Freak Easy stuff. Yeah.
So we also find out. So she takes the $3,000. Doesn't really tell him anything. So she then takes the money and gives the money to her granddaughter. Her mom or her daughter, Jamie, Laurie's daughter won't talk to her. Yeah. They're on a bad relationship because she spent her whole life training her to fight Michael Meyers.
Let's pause again for a brief second.
Okay.
Just to clarify here. 1978 Halloween 1 comes out. 1998 they do that first major reboot where they bring Jamie Lee Curtis back. Okay. They retcon out her daughter.
Yep.
And now she's got a son.
Yep.
And she's been in hiding for this 20 years.
Yep.
And they make a really, really, really good movie out of it, and they go on from there. Now, 20 years later, they've made one sequel to that, and then the two Rob Zombie movies, and now they're coming out with this one, and completely retconning everything.
Right.
Now, she never had a son. She never did the H2O thing. She's had a daughter in this. I think they mentioned 2 failed marriages and a daughter. Or was that in H2O, or was that in both of them, maybe?
That's a good... I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, she's got a daughter in this one again,
right?
But it's not the daughter from like the earlier movies at all.
Yeah, it's not Jamie.
And it plays like the Josh Hartnett character almost, except a female and 20 years later now without having been attacked. But this is another total, complete, reboot on that level that she's just got a new, different kid now,
right?
And they've just gender swapped it.
Yep.
And now it's Judy Greer.
Yep. So she comes into town to see her granddaughter. She also comes into town to watch them try to transfer Michael. Although she watches him get on the bus and then leaves, but she doesn't follow the bus. Instead, she's
thinking about killing him.
She's thinking about killing him, yeah, for sure. But she just lets the bus leave. She goes to meet her family for dinner that she kind of was invited to, kind of not invited to.
Yeah.
Has a freak out there, and they all get mad at her, so she leaves. Then we find out that the bus is crashed, flipped, whatever. And Michael is, of course, escaped. And now Michael gets back to killing. Doing what he does best.
And he kills that kid.
He kills that kid. Yeah. He kills his dad.
It's rough when they kill kids.
Man.
Yep.
And it's the dad, did they ever show the dad?
No.
I just assumed
they show the dad.
Well,
they didn't show him die, but they show him dead.
Okay, yeah.
I missed that part. But he kills the kid, or at least they heavily imply it. That kid's dead.
Yeah.
And that's always real creepy when they do that.
Yeah, well, they stop to help to crash the bus.
Yeah.
And the dad gets out, and he's like, stay here, and then the kid gets out, but then by the time the kid gets back in the car, Michael's in the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of that's one of those moments that I'm not holding it against the movie, but it kind of pulls me out of movies.
Yeah.
Because they do the thing where it's like, I feel like they're trying to project the dad character as going, well, I got to do the right thing and help these people. And get out of the car and go see what's going on. Except, that is clearly a bus full of inmates.
Yeah.
And you've got your 10-year-old with you.
Right.
You don't stop and get out of the car there. Yeah. Also, this isn't 1978. This is 2018. Your kid picks up his cell phone at one point.
Yeah.
You keep driving and you call everyone you can call.
Yeah.
But you don't stop to help.
Right. He finds the podcasters, kills the 2 podcasters, and gets his mask back.
Mm-hmm.
Kills everybody at the gas station. He finds the podcasters at a gas station.
Totally Wishmastered that dude at the gas station.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Now we have to Wishmaster if we get a second season. If we get
picked up,
if we get renewed.
I like it.
If corporate says we can go ahead.
Yeah.
That's you, Dan.
Oh, okay.
So he kills everybody at this gas station, kills the podcasters, gets the mask back.
I will say, they show, because this was a moment of retribution for me.
Yeah.
Because as much as I liked H2O the first time and liked it even more the second time, when I saw that first rest stop scene, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. And then when I watched it the second time, I was fine with it, but still underwhelmed. And then I felt like this one was the moment where they redid that H2O scene, except he comes in and murders everybody.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted. Also, super messed up, because they show the woman going in and she's getting into a stall or whatever, and then they show the legs coming in and you don't know exactly what's getting set up, but you assume it's Michael Myers, and then they show the guy finding the gas station employee who's been Wishmaster, who's basically his jaw's just been pulled off or whatever. Yeah. And the next scene they flash back over and Michael's standing outside the stall where this woman's sitting, and he just holds his arm up over the door and just drops all that dude's teeth.
Dude, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it is on.
Yeah. So then Michael goes on a rampage through Haddonfield.
Interesting. Another side note, real quick. He murders that kid early on.
Yep.
Super creepy. And then when he starts walking just through houses, murdering people left and right, and then leaves the baby alone.
Yeah.
So that was a weird dichotomy to me. It felt. I didn't know why. I didn't know if that was retribution for him killing the 11-year-old, or oversight of some sort. It seemed like it was
I don't
forced
know.
in that, like, because there was no reason for that baby to be there. You
Yeah.
hear the baby crying, and he walks by a crib and doesn't murder it.
Yeah.
That scene plays exactly the same without that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they wanted me to take from that.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of fun too because it's almost like this is Jason leveling up. This is his like he's getting
Michael.
to his Michael. I don't know why I keep doing that. It's Michael leveling up, getting to the true Michael Myers form. Because
Yeah.
like he walks into a garage, sees a hammer, grabs the hammer, walks into the house, murders the lady with the hammer, sees she's got a little knife, grabs her little knife, goes to the next house, murders that lady, like gets a bigger knife. Like it's literally like he's just going down the street, killing people, like leveling up, finding new weapons to add to his arsenal. We get that cool callback here though too, because
It's like Friday the 13th, the game.
yeah, the game, yeah, exactly. It's a
Nintendo
video
game.
game.
I got the knife here. Oh, I got the pitchfork now. Oh, I got the
Machete.
candle. Yeah, the machete.
That second lady that he gets, like, because he walks up to the window and they do the thing where like you could see the reflection of just the mask on the window.
Yep.
So they do that callback shot right there,
Yep.
which is pretty cool. And I like that scene quite a bit because she's like leans into that window and then you just see the mask and the reflection in the window and then he grabs her and murders her right there.
Bangs her head off that chair and then knifes her through the throat.
Yeah,
That's brutal.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it was real brutal, but it was real cool. I liked that scene.
Yep. I was laughing because there's the one girl babysitting. She's babysitting that kid and she's talking to Laurie's granddaughter. And she's like, "Oh, you guys need to come here. I'm gonna put the kid to sleep, and my boyfriend's gonna come over, and he's gonna bring the Alakazam, and blah blah blah." And I'm watching with John, and John looks at me and he goes, "I wish that kid would just be like, oh, what's Alakazam? Does that mean weed? Because that little kid, because kids know that kind of thing. Kids know what that is."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah.
You just
And
wait.
then that kid immediately is like, "Why y'all trying to act like I don't know that Alakazam means weed? You gotta put me to bed and then come over and smoke weed. I'm gonna tell my mom."
She was like, "It's a magic trick." That was so funny. That kid was awesome.
That kid was great. That was a great scene. But then Michael comes in, kills everybody in that house except, does he kill the little kid?
He doesn't.
No,
The kid gets
No,
away.
the little kid runs away.
Little kid gets away.
Which was also funny because, like,
Oh yeah, because
they
he's
do-
trying to talk the boyfriend into leaving.
Yeah, because they do the bit where like the girlfriend's upstairs and she like holds off Michael long enough to let the kid run away,
Yeah.
and the kid runs downstairs like he's screaming for help, and the boyfriend's downstairs. Except instead of being like, "You gotta go help," the kid's running past him, going, "You gotta get out of here."
Yeah.
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 Like, you gonna run up there? You dead? You
Yeah.
gonna run up there? You gonna die? I'm getting out of here. And then he runs out the front door.
Yep. And then the boyfriend does die.
And the boyfriend does die. Then some stuff happens. Oh, Lori finds out that the bus flipped, so she's running around town, and there's a cop being played by Will Patton.
Yeah, which I felt bad because like Will Patton showed up, and I love Will Patton. But when Will Patton shows up in a rom-com, I assume he's gonna die terribly.
Yeah,
So
man.
when he shows
Will
up in a
Patton-
Halloween movie, it's just a
Dude.
matter of when and how.
Yeah, Will Patton dies more than Joey Pants, man. Like we just knew he was done for. But the thing I like is when he shows up, he kind of references that he was there that first night.
Yeah.
He was one of the cops that showed up
Yep.
then. So when he finds Lori running around, they're kind of like she's like he's out. He's like, "I know.
Yeah.
Glad you're here."
Yeah.
Let's get him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he's not like, "Crazy lady, go back to your
Yeah,
to your
exactly.
hut." You know.
Well, it goes right back to the thing that we
Yeah.
always liked about all those
Yep.
other movies.
Yep.
Like, they know who Michael is.
Right.
They know he's a threat. They know they got to stop the guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we get a little while of them running around trying to find Michael. Then Lori goes and gets her family, and they're just going to go hold up at her house
Yeah.
because she's got the bunker that's been designed to keep Michael out.
Yeah.
They're separated from the daughter, so we get the daughter kind of running around, and then Michael runs into her. So then that's where we get the kind of standard horror movie chase. You know, Michael Myers chasing down the young girl. She's in the cop car. She's not in the cop car. The doctor, who is not Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, Loomis's protege.
Yeah, decides to murder a couple cops and try to help Michael. That's a
He
weird.
only murders the one.
He murders.
Oh, he murders
the-
he murders Will Patton.
Yeah, Will
Yeah.
Patton. Yeah.
He didn't murder. No, I guess he didn't murder
No,
the
he
other
didn't.
cops.
And it was- and it was- and the
those
whole-
cops
and
got
his-
murdered though.
He had that knife pin.
Yeah. The night.
Well, and that's kind of like the big reveal in the middle of the movie there, because Will Patton has the doctor with him, and he picks up the granddaughter, Laurie's granddaughter, and as they're driving, like he sees Michael walking, and he gets a call on the radio, and he radios in like he's got him or whatever, and he goes to plow, and he basically just plows over him. Car, yeah. And the doctor is screaming like, "Don't hit him" or whatever.
You're gonna kill him.
And then he hits him. And he gets out, and he knows it's Michael Myers, so he's being very cautious, and is about to shoot him a bunch, which is funny because I at this point I have spent 8 movies. Every time this dude gets knocked over, I'm screaming at the screen, "Just shoot him! Just keep shooting him! Why would you ever stop shooting him? He always gets up."
Yeah.
And finally, somebody knocks him over and gets out of the car and is like, "I'm gonna keep shooting him."
Yeah.
And the doctor like steps in the way, and then
pulls out his knife pen.
His knife pen kills Will Patton, and picks up the mask, puts the mask on himself, drags Michael Myers over to the car, puts him in the back with the granddaughter who is trapped in the back of this police car watching this happen and can't get out, And the big reveal basically there is he's going to figure Michael Myers out, and he can't risk him killing him. Yeah. And it's one of those things. It's like, when it first happened, you're like, man, is he like working with Michael Myers? That's weird. But no, he's just super crazy.
Yeah.
Like he's
staring into the abyss long enough.
Yeah, exactly. He is like
Harley Quinn.
He's the opposite.
Old manly Quinn.
I was going to say, like, he's the tails to Loomis's heads,
Yeah.
Like, he's just the other side of Loomis.
Yeah, there you go.
Like Loomis knew what he had in front of him and knew he had to stop it. This guy knows what he has in front of him and wants to understand it, And then, so, like, he gets the mask. He even puts the mask on.
Right.
Gets real creepy with the girl, explains his side of the thing or whatever. Drives along until they find some other cops, and then Michael Myers wakes up and immediately murders him.
Yeah, well, he's driving out because he wants to find out what happens. He thinks the only way to find out is for him to confront Laurie now.
Yeah.
So he's taking him out there. Michael Myers wakes up. Yeah. Murders the other cops.
The girl tells him, like, because he's got some session with Michael speaking.
Right.
And the girl tells him, like, well, he talked to me, and he starts freaking out, like, what did he say? What did he say? And that's when Michael wakes up and murders him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which she's just trying to get, let me out of the car and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So then we get back to Laurie's compound now. The little girl is made, which Laurie and her daughter and her husband are there, and the cops are supposed to be picking up the girl to bring her out there.
Right.
So they'll all be safe there. Jason,
there
thanks.
we go. Yeah,
you did
sorry.
it to me.
Yep.
Michael Myers has killed the cops. He's out there. The little girl's running through. The younger girl is running through the forest, trying to. She just run at this point. I don't even know if she knows where she's at. So Michael Myers drives up to the house, and the husband comes out and immediately gets murdered.
Yeah. Well, he thinks it's the cops, and he assumes his daughter's with them.
Right.
Yeah.
So he comes running out like, hey, what's going on? And when he looks into the cop car, like, one of those cops' heads is torn off and shoved onto a
flashlight.
And the other one's super dead too.
Looks like a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Super
and
cool
then he
kills.
just gets choked out, which is funny too, because, man, what a lame kill. Like, as far as some of them go, because Michael Myers just straight up just chokes this dude with a little chain, and he's dead.
So then but he fires off a shot while he's getting murdered. So Laurie runs up, sees Michael, and starts to put the house on lockdown. And so now we've got it's kind of like that movie, that Home Alone with Michael Myers and Laurie.
Home Alone with Michael Myers.
Yeah. So there's like a basement chamber with a bunch of guns in it, a secret basement chamber. She's got stuff all around the house, and she puts
all the rooms are on lockdown.
All the rooms are on lockdown.
These cages drop.
Yeah, she checks all the room, locks them all out.
Yeah, like there's bright lights everywhere except for the second floor.
Yeah. Well, she goes through and shuts all the lights off, and they don't really. I guess so that they can't see her, but like
I
dark,
didn't get that.
It's always super weird.
They super brighten everything on the outside and then darken everything inside.
Yeah,
like.
So Michael Myers gets in, of course, and she goes to war with Michael Myers. We get some really cool scenes here because this is where like she gets all the Michael Myers scenes. They do one with her where Michael Myers is standing in front of a closet and her face lights up in the closet.
Yep.
And she stabs him.
Well, that's at the very end of all this.
Okay.
I think going down the stairs, because that's my third like moment of these movies.
Okay.
When they bring it back full circle.
Yeah.
But she gets
thrown off the balcony, and he looks down, and she's laying there, and then there's a noise or something. He looks away, and when he looks back, she's gone.
Yeah.
The younger girl makes it there at some point, and gets down in the basement with her mom. We're not sure where Laurie is, so she gets down in the basement, and that's a real cool scene because the daughter has a gun, and she knows Michael's up there, and she's going, I can't do it, Mom, I can't do it. And then he steps out, and she's like, gotcha. It shoots him.
Yeah.
That was a great scene.
And
that's right before that.
That's when, because like as he gets shot or whatever, that's when they do the scene where it's like all you can see is Jamie Lee Curtis's face coming out of the darkness, just like Michael in the first movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's that full circle moment.
Yeah.
Where you're like, man, not only is that a cool shot, that's a cool reference, that's a cool everything. Is perfect right there. And then she kind of stabs him, and he falls down the stairs, and instead of continuing to just shoot him for the next 20 minutes, they all run up the stairs. One of them gets grabbed and almost gets pulled back down. But
they run up the stairs, and then they lock the bar, so now he's trapped. Yeah. And the daughter throughout the movie has referenced several times, like, oh, she lives out there in her cage, and I couldn't live in the cage with her anymore, and blah blah. And so this is where we find out it wasn't a cage; it was a trap.
Yeah.
Right. So then they burn down the house with Michael inside, and Laurie's been stabbed. Jamie Lee Curtis has been stabbed and thrown down stuff. So she's in a bad way, but she wins. And they run out. They run out and jump in the back of some dude's truck. There's this truck driving down the road.
Yeah.
And they run down the street. This house is like blowing up and burning down, and they just jump in the truck, and that's the end of the movie.
Yep.
Except they kind of show the basement again, and you don't see Michael anymore.
Yeah. They show the basement, his body's not there.
Yeah, he's definitely.
And then did you wait till the end of the credits?
Oh, is there stuff after the credits?
All that's there, like when the credits end, the screen just goes black, and you hear Michael's breathing.
Oh,
his
really?
mask. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, no, I didn't catch that.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. I thought that was pretty neat. So they definitely allude to the fact that he's probably still alive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we know
And
that
they've
they're
already
doing
greenlit two more of those.
So
So on that level, like, fine, because we know he's coming back anywhere. Really cool movie. Nowhere near as cool of an ending as H2O had.
Yeah. I did really like it, though. I thought it was a super well done movie.
For sure.
Yeah.
You want to start off on the
Yeah. Because I was trying to make that run down a lot quicker than it ended up being. Yeah. So okay, I will start by saying that I like this movie, but kind of like how we talked about. If you listen to the regular Geek Easy, how we talked about with Joker, like we can't watch that movie without all these, qualifiers.
Yeah.
Like it's okay if and I like it, but
Yeah.
I kind of get that with this movie. I like this a lot more than I like Joker. I like this movie. I do. Yes. I like the Halloween 2018, but I don't like that they erase the rest of the franchise. Mm-hmm. I think this plays. I think the story plays a lot better as a follow-up to at least some of the rest of the franchise. I think there are things. It takes away a lot for me. The idea that Laurie Strode became an obsessive, sociopath for the next 40 years, who could never get over the one night that, three of her friends died.
Yeah.
And Sarah Connored herself back in this thing. Like I don't like that. If it's a follow up to H2O, then I totally get that. If she spent 20 years hiding from him, and he showed back up and she chopped his head off, but then she was still crazy and spent another 20 years Sarah Connoring herself back in the woods. Yeah, I totally get that. Yep. The way the podcasters and everybody who talks about Michael Myers. Man, at this point, Michael Myers has killed five people, 6 people, and then 5 people, and then he's been in a asylum for 40 years. That's not even like John Wayne Gacy cred. You know what I mean? That's not even like Jeffrey Dahmer, but they treat him with such like, you know, gravitas and so much weight, you know, and like the mask, like, you know, when the podcaster pulls it out and the like hums and all the other crazies get crazy, you know, it's just like, man, this is not, you know, now if all that others, if the whole rest of the franchise has happened, those scenes make sense. Those scenes play into the continuing ongoing mythos of, man, this Michael Myers guy that's been popping up every 10 years, every 15 years for the last 40 years. Yeah, he's crazy and everybody dies when he shows up. This is serious stuff. I realized while I was watching it this time, you know, I had all these kind of convoluted, like, I like it if, but this wouldn't happen. I don't feel like it should be this way. I realized I don't like being pandered to as a fan. Okay. You know, and I've kind of realized that, like, I've been trying to figure out, there's a bunch of movies that are getting rebooted and remade, and there are scenes that just rub me wrong. Star Trek Into Darkness. I like Star Trek Into Darkness, except the scene where he's like, my name is Khan. Yeah. And it's like, bum, bum, bum. Yeah. They have no idea who Khan is. They don't know why that matters. Right. Only we do. Like, that's pandering to us. You know, I don't like that. Specifically with this, the movie plays fine. If you give Michael Myers all this weight and importance and threat, and he's been killing people for 40 years... cool. If you take that away and like just make it, you know, well, it's this crazy guy who killed, you know, people for, you know, who killed 5 people and then stopped talking for 40 years. So everybody kind of overlooks him, and that's why he's able to escape and go on another murder rampage 40 years later as a 70-year-old man. You know, I'm fine with that. Like I don't. It takes me out of it that they try to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, that was the exact words I was about to interject with, because that is exactly it. Like, they want to have the you know, the gimmick of retconning everything and going back to a position like, well, let's go back to when we were legitimate and go from there. Now, H2O does basically the exact same thing. It takes up after 2 instead of 1. Yeah. And sort like, I mean, it retcons the rest of it out, grabs a piece here or there for reference sake, and kind of moves forward. I don't know that it needed to. I think H2O could have been the same movie without pretending that the daughter never existed. Yeah. Would have just been a little bit of dialogue, and you could have fixed that. But also was fine. You know, like, everything it needed to have from the early ones it kept. Yeah. All was well. Yeah. Excuse me.
Here's the other thing I'm going to throw in there real quick. The story also reflects those changes, though. You know, that because nobody, you know, she didn't go Sarah Connor herself in the woods for 40 years. She moved cities, changed her names. Maybe faking her death was a little extreme, but you know, she moved cities and changed her names and hasn't told anybody about it.
Well, and then the gravity of that is like when the story comes out, like even with her own son, right? Like he understands she went through a trauma as a young person, but also like, you know, 8 people got killed. That's going to mess anybody up, but it doesn't need to carry forward to his entire life, you know? Even when she tells the guy about it, the guy has heard this story because it made the news, but it wasn't, you know... Now, when the dude actually shows up and they go, that's this crazy guy who killed 8 people, there's seriousness to it at that point. Yeah. But it plays properly through the whole thing step by step with the world they have set around it. They erased a bunch of stuff, but the gravity they kept fit with the portions they kept. Yes. In this one, they erased practically everything. Like, even farther back, like, they even erased 2. H2O kept 2. This one erases 2. Yep. And like you said, they want to play that same gravity, but it doesn't work 40 years later. When you had first told me that, you had kind of left that, you know, without spoiling a bunch of the movie, you had sort of left that, like, because I knew it went back to 1, and you had even said, well, you know, like, they say it goes back to 1, but I need to watch it again because I feel like maybe 2 still took place, or that maybe a bunch of other stuff still took place that I don't remember how they referenced it because of the way they played the characters. And then when we went back and watched it here, clearly they flat out state it's everything after 1 didn't happen. When I was watching the early parts of it, and it's the podcasters who were putting so much gravity on this guy, like, I bought that.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing a true crime podcast, you're deep diving into a bunch of this stuff. And if you're coming face to face with a guy, maybe he only killed 5 people and it was 40 years ago, but it's still a weird story. You're still super into this stuff.
Yeah.
You have an expert knowledge of it. You've studied it. You hold that gravity. I'm fine with those guys doing it. But then when it moves into the rest of the stuff, like we get to Laurie's story. And like you said, at that point, like, Laurie has just straight up Sarah Connored herself. Like, I'm watching 3 friends die. Or not even watching it. Like, having 3 friends die in close proximity and being chased by a madman at 17 is an absolutely traumatic event. I'm sure it will leave you with weird forms of PTSD. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it will stick with you for the rest of your life. I totally get that. I don't know that it, like, I don't buy that it automatically makes you hermit woman.
Yeah.
Right.
Who just practices with her guns all day in case her crazy not brother ever gets out of prison, you know.
And it also makes her a little less sympathetic because, like, she has a bad relationship with her family when hey, you could have got some therapy and some medication and had a good relationship with your family.
Like, exactly.
you know? And
like
not that there aren't family relationships that struggle.
No,
you know?
but all her entire life is based around a guy who hasn't been an issue in 40 years. Like, has been safely locked away.
Yes.
Yeah.
They haven't even tried to move him or whatever else.
Right.
And when you look at, because when I said something like that to you, you even said something like, well, you know, Sarah Connor had that one event too, I guess. I was like, but Sarah Connor's event was involved time travel and the end of the entire world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can drive you into crazy military mode where you train all day for when the robots come back.
Right.
This is your pretty tall brother who's kind of strong.
And not even your brother.
Not brother.
Now, not brother, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if 8 of these movies have happened before now, all that gravity makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Like you said. Everyone's reactions to it, her being crazy hermit woman, all of that plays fine. And in point of fact, like, you don't have to erase all of that stuff to get your gimmick across. You can still make this the spiritual sequel to 1 and just be real vague about the stuff in the middle. Like, they go out of their way to explain that none of that ever happened.
Right.
You don't have, if you just don't do that, you don't have to accept that it happened. You don't have to reference all the other things. You don't have to have had a daughter and or a son at any other point. Any of those things. You just have to not go out of your way to pull the other 40 bodies out of the body count. And this movie plays absolutely perfect. But as the follow-up to a guy who killed 5 teenagers in 1978, it plays a little heavy. Still a masterfully done movie, and going into it with a mindset I've gone into a lot of these where I go, I'm going to kind of decide how I take this movie. I can love this movie because it is really well done, and I can just sort of ignore the fact that I don't agree with the degree that they retconned it to. And I can just absolutely love the movie because it is really well done, and it is a great addition to the Michael Myers mythos. And it's really cool. I really like the idea of, like, crazy 60-year-old Michael Myers being reactivated and still being this hulking brute. Mm-hmm. I just don't. I don't like it as much from the decision-making perspective as I do the last reboot they did at that 20-year mark. You know. There's part of it will always play off to me because they just went a little too far to kind of sell that gimmick, I feel.
How'd you feel, Danny?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I don't know. I didn't really think that deep on this one for whatever reason. The reboot was fine for me.
Yeah.
I totally understand what you're saying. None of that bothered me.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really fun ride and a really well done movie. So I don't know where I rank it with the other ones. Like, I feel like I would almost put this around the same level as H2O. I think they're both really good reboots for the franchise. That almost tell the same kind of story slightly differently from each other. But 1 and 4 are probably still my favorites of the whole bunch.
Yeah.
So
I think I go 1, H2O, 4, and then this one.
Yeah, those are the same 4 movies though that are definitely my favorites.
Yeah,
I think those are
Yeah.
easily the 4 standouts of the entire franchise.
right.
And then when we like I've talked about a couple of times too, like a timeline, because I can look at these as different. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like 1 and 2 can be their own thing. I like 1, 2, and H2O as a complete trilogy.
Yeah,
I like that. I don't think I'll ever watch 1 and this one as a complete
like
set.
As like
Set.
sequels.
Like, to me, I want
Yeah.
like even though even though this movie tells me they don't exist, I want some of those middle ones to
Yeah,
exist for
I
this
can see
movie to
that.
work better.
I can
you know,
see that.
4, 5, and 6 are totally their own thing. They can follow 1 and 2. You can do 1, 2, 4, 5, and
Yeah.
6. They can almost just be their own thing with a reference to the original. That's fine there too. 3 obviously is just a toss away to the side. But I like the fact that I can take these 9 movies and I can make probably 6 different combinations that work for me as a story.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be interesting to see where they go with this, though. Like now we know we get in 2 more movies. Like this is almost its own trilogy now.
I bet we don't get 2 more.
You don't?
I bet the next one is terrible, and then they kill the 3rd one.
Ooh, that could be.
I
'cause
bet even if the next one's terrible, it makes money though.
they're slated for 2020 and 2021, so those are going to come out pretty quickly, back to back.
But we're also, and we've also reached a point now where making money doesn't guarantee you a sequel.
Yeah.
All the DC movies have made money. They've still canceled that.
Yeah.
They've still canceled that because the reception is bad.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean when it comes out and everybody goes to see it, and then the internet, spends 3 months talking about how terrible it is. I think they'll. I mean, we'll definitely get more Halloween after that. They'll go, man, we need to bring Rob Zombie back.
Busta Rhymes should probably come back.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he?
Man.
Well, that was 3 hours on Halloween.
3 hours. Hopefully y'all are still. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.
Thanks
totally.
for sticking with
I
us.
tell you what, though, like that franchise deserves it.
Yeah.
You know? And we're sorry if we went long, but watch it in chunks. It's fine.
Yeah, I will say, like, when we came into this whole thing, like, a lot of these I'd watched for the first time.
Yeah.
Or, like, had only seen pieces of them and parts of them and knew of them. So I was really excited to experience all the movies that we watched for the Freak Easy. I expected to come out of the other side of this with Jason Voorhees being my favorite horror icon.
Yeah.
Like, hands down.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure Michael Myers has taken that lead. Yeah, like I really love the Friday the 13th movies. Like I loved them. I loved even with the stinkers in there.
Yeah,
that franchise as a whole was so much fun to watch through. So Jason is absolutely one of my favorite icons. But man, I really enjoyed the Halloween movies.
Yeah,
really, and just Michael Myers as a character, like everything we said about him, something about him just really stood out to me above everybody else.
Yeah.
So with the Halloweens, the ones that are good are good movies.
Yeah.
With the
true.
Friday the 13th, the ones that are good horror movies.
That's true. You're totally right. You're totally right.
Like even at their best, they're like schlocky, slasher films.
Yes,
and they're
exactly.
great.
Exactly.
Halloween, Part 4, H2O, those are good movies.
Yeah.
You could put them against any genre.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like they're put together well. They tell good stories.
And the new one, I'd put the new one in there too. I think the new one's a good movie.
I like the new one.
Sure.
I was just I wasn't saying those are the only ones.
Oh yeah. No, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like if you take, we haven't counted the Rob Zombie ones at all.
No.
And if you take 3 out of the mix because it doesn't really fit anywhere.
Yeah.
Like by far the worst of these is 6.
Yes.
And 6 is probably on par with some of the worst Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
But outside of 6, the worst of these movies are better than the middlest of the Friday the 13th. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like the Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So that's not a comment
No,
on them, but like this is a different class of production.
Yes.
For the most part. And the mythos, if you look at like the Friday the 13th 1 through 10, you can put a timeline and a mythos to it where it kind of grows. But like as you're watching them, they're just chunked together.
Right.
And then tied however they need to be tied, and then it goes on forward. Like this one has some elements of that where that don't necessarily fit together, but for the most part, this stays true to itself the entire time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need big changes or lightning bolts or it doesn't have to go to space. It doesn't need to do any of that stuff, man. It is just what it is, and when it's done well, it works every time.
Yep. Faux show.
For sure. Oh man. So You guys were never big. Have never been big horror guys.
Not really.
Never been really. I've always loved horror movies. You know,
I would have considered myself a big fan of the genre, but
Yeah.
I just didn't realize how little of it I had seen.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every time I see I really like the style.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize how
Yeah.
unaccustomed to it I was.
Yeah.
You know?
Any revelations? I mean, that's kind of a revelation. I guess that's kind of where I was going. Anything you realized having watched through some of these?
Not really realized. Mostly for me, I'm glad to have seen them and like know them now. Like all of these movies that we've watched have a presence in pop culture. And so like even though I have never seen them, I've known a lot about most of these movies just from being on the internet. You know what I mean?
Right.
Reading stuff about it, reading other people's reactions to things. So I kind of feel like I'm in the know now on a lot of this stuff, and I like that. I was surprised by a lot of these movies too, like the ones that like really stood out to me and got me thinking and got me really excited, and then the ones that like I thought would be a lot more fun turned out to not be as fun. So like I recommended The Puppet Masters because I always thought that those movies looked like they were going to be a total blast.
Yeah.
And then they were just a bizarre mess.
So weird.
Yeah, I mean, I still had fun watching them, but they were totally different than I was expecting.
Yep.
On the other side of the coin, I really like Hellraiser.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of my favorites that we watched in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, something about that whole story with Hellraiser got me so intrigued that it's the one out of all of these that I started doing all that extra research and watching documentaries and everything of, because I don't know, man, like I left those movies like wanting to know more about that universe.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool.
Pinhead is my favorite.
Pinhead's
icon
really
of the icons.
Yeah?
Pinhead is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. See, I still need to watch some more Hellraisers.
Yeah.
Now. That's one of my things I want to do.
Not getting what I expected from any of these.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I had seen most of the Fridays, so that was kind of what it was there. But
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was getting into with Hellraisers.
Yeah.
Puppet Masters, I would have expected to be way different.
Yeah.
Chucky's were probably close to what I thought,
I was gonna say.
but even then, like
Well,
I had
I
no
guess
idea they
those-
went with like the voodoo stuff and it. Like
Yeah.
even that stuff, I was like, oh, I had no idea that was a part of it. You know?
Yeah.
The old like Universal ones,
I loved
just didn't
those.
expect those to be nearly as fleshed out. I
Mm-hmm.
guess you know, like wow, those are
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like
and I would have
those. Yeah.
I would have said in a heartbeat, yeah, I'll enjoy those. Those will
Right.
be fine. But I had no idea how head over heels I would fall for him. You know.
Yeah.
And then even getting down to Michael Myers, like I had already seen most of the best ones, but I had to see the middle ones to truly appreciate the franchise as a whole. And I would have never guessed Michael Myers would go higher than 4th on my list.
Yeah.
And he's number 1 with a bullet right now as
Yeah.
far as the slasher genre goes, you know? Well, probably. I don't know. Ghostface is...
Oh yeah,
Ghostface.
Ghostface, huh?
That's kind of my guy on that level. But I got utmost respect for Michael Myers.
Yeah.
I never realized how much he deserved that icon status.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the biggest shocks of the thing for me. And I think it was because I had seen some,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yep.
they just didn't hit me until I saw them all.
All
Right.
of them.
Properly,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Totally.
Well, guys, I think we've reached the end. Before we wrap things up, we've seen 8. We've sampled 8 horror franchises
Dang, that's crazy.
in the last 8 weeks. And I want to end on a bit of a gruesome note. What's been your favorite kill of
Oh my gosh.
of the 8 weeks?
I gotta think back on all the kills.
on all the kills. all the poor suckers who ran across these monsters not knowing what they were getting into and paid the price for it.
All right, I still really like when Chucky put those eyeballs in that dude's head with that machine.
Okay.
That's the standout for me,
Yeah.
easy. I don't know why I love that so much,
Yep.
but it's just that campy horror that I love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a great standout for me. I really liked Michael Myers stabbing that girl with that shotgun.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was amazing.
That one jumped straight to mind.
Yeah.
Without more time to reminisce, it's hard to think outside of the Halloweens.
Yeah.
Because we just watch them so much. I really digged the gruesomeness of the new Dr. Loomis and the newest Halloween getting curb stomped.
Oh,
basically.
dude, yeah, totally just curb stomped him, didn't he?
Yeah, like he just straight
smashed
up
his
blew his head up.
Oh,
I like that.
Crushed in the
I
mush.
really think maybe the thing that's standing out in my mind outside of the Halloween franchise is that car. It's another Chucky kill when he had that dude in that car.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
when he faked that he was gonna kill him, and the dude was super scared, and then as soon as he dropped his guard and relaxed a little bit, he just got choked to death by this doll. Like it wasn't a particularly gruesome looking kill or anything like that. It was just so sadistic.
Yeah.
You know, and so that one just kind of sticks with me.
Totally.
For sure. You know, I still have to go all the way back to Friday the 13th. Jason X in particular. I still love the guys. It's okay. He just wanted his machete back.
That's a good one.
I love that one.
Sleeping bag kill.
The sleeping bag kill is
so good.
Is great.
So good.
The kills in the Friday the 13th are just like that was the point of those movies.
Yes.
They get a little venom.
Yeah.
Even that, I hate to praise the reboot, but man, when he's just cooking that chick in that sleeping bag.
Oh my god.
that whole
you know?
first scene of that.
Yeah.
Like that movie should have just been 20 minutes and I'd have been like, it's the greatest one.
I think that's the thing for me in some of these movies. Like the kills that really get me are the ones that make me feel bad for people that I hate.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, you're awful. I can't wait till you die. Oh, that's too much, though.
That's too much.
I'm also still a huge fan of the first kill in the cube when that guy gets cubed.
diced.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough too.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite is when they pull Frank apart in Hellraiser.
Oh yeah.
And that's just that.
Man.
Talk about the one that makes me squirm. Because the hooks come and start grabbing him, but he doesn't have his. Not only are the hooks grabbing him, he doesn't have his skin on, so it's pulling the skin all weird.
Yeah.
And he gets splayed out.
So you're talking about the end.
The end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So when they're pulling
the
gooier Frank.
Gooier Frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gooey Frank.
Because they pull dry Frank apart at the beginning.
They pull dry Frank apart at the beginning. Well, when they pull, is he Larry Frank by then?
Yeah.
Gooey Larry Frank.
Yeah. Gooey Larry Frank.
Yeah.
And
Frank
just
and Larry.
because and then we get that
He is
moment
Frank
where
and
he's
Larry.
just
He's Frank and
you
Larry.
know right before he pops, and then we just see him pop apart.
Yep.
There's just something about people and or parts of them exploding.
Yeah.
That really churn your stomach sometimes.
Guys, thank you for joining us on the Freak Easy. It has been a great 8 weeks for me. I love horror movies. I've had a blast watching all these and talking about them with you guys. And talking about them with you guys. And thank you for joining us for our 3-hour plus Halloween extravaganza.
Yeah, you brought it back.
Just for you.
All right.
Just for you. If you have enjoyed this podcast, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that gets us all up in that algorithm. Head over to Facebook. Find the Geek Easy, like the Geek Easy, then ask us questions there. And then every other Wednesday, check out our actual Geek Easy podcast.
That's right.
Where we will answer your questions. And then to listen to our Geek Easy podcast, you can find us right back here on YouTube. Or if you prefer a audio version, you can find us on Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, Apple's podcast app, whatever that is.
Yep.
Anywhere where you can find audio versions of podcasts.
Spotify, yep.
Anywhere where you can find audio versions of podcasts, you can find us and listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to add before we wrap it up, guys?
All up in that algorithm is what I'm going to call my memoirs.
Sounds like a good band name, actually.
A good band name.
Yeah. All up in that algorithm.
Tonight at the spot. Guys, be safe tonight while you're trick-or-treating, and have a happy Halloween.
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of The Geek Easy Podcast.